Hello and everyone, welcome to the NFL Week 13 early preview with Fumble Sports as we take you through the entire slate of the NFL week, which games we like, what bets we're making, what player props to consider, and of course, any fantasy implications, questions you may have, answers we can provide. We are here for you, Fumble Sports. Our goal is to democratize sports media. We believe every fan can be on-air talent. We want to give you the opportunity. So reach out to us, engage with us. We want to be here for you because we believe you can talk sports just as well as everybody you see on TV. That's the goal of Fumble Sports, give you the opportunity to be on-air talent. Appreciate everyone that's going to join us tonight on Twitter Spaces, at our Twitter account, at SportsFumble. That's at SportsFumble. Give us a follow. And, of course, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, at Fumble Sports. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. We appreciate it. We put out content every day, gambling, fantasy, rants, everything you need, and not just football related. But, of course, as we head into Week 13, we are heavily invested in this NFL season. We hope that everybody can have a successful fantasy football playoff stretch. One of the reasons we're putting out all this information, we want to supply fantasy football players with everything they need to win their weeks. As for gambling, like I said, we'll go through every spread, every total, every game to give you what you need. As always, we're joined by one of our loyal listeners and content creators. Lope, how are you doing tonight?
Very good. A lot of good games this week. Interesting to hear everybody's opinions on them.
Really looking forward to breaking all of them down. We also have our Michigan man, someone who is still celebrating Michigan's win over Ohio State. I hope the hangover has finally come down. Blease, how are you doing? Are you still riding your college football high from the weekend?
Oh, yeah. For 365 days, we're riding. It still goes on. And like Lope said, there's a lot of great matchups. I even think it's probably the best week of matchups so far this season, I think.
As always, I appreciate Blease so much. He's going to be helping us go through our Metaverse studio, Fumble Sports, broadcasting on YouTube from our Metaverse studio as we bring sports talk into the Metaverse. Fumble Sports is a big believer in the Web3 space, and we want to show you what we're able to do in it. So check us out on YouTube at Fumble Sports. Great graphics and unbelievable studio. Everything to keep you entertained as we go through every game. Let's start with this NFL Week 13, and we start with Thursday Night Football, of course, as the 8-3 Buffalo Bills play the 6-5 New England Patriots. This game, of course, is around 8:15 on Amazon Prime. Where we see it, the Buffalo Bills are a 5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 43 points. Some gambling trends for you before we go around and break it down. The Bills are 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 meetings in New England. The Patriots are 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 games following a straight-up loss. The underdog is 5-2-1 against the spread in the last 8 meetings between the Bills and Patriots. The under is 6-0 in the Bills' last 6 road games, and the under is 5-2 in the Patriots' last 7 games versus the AFC. Lope, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this Thursday night football game between the Bills and Patriots?
Well, yeah, one of the stats that you said that really stands out is the Bills' last 6 road games have gone under. So I definitely think that's in play. But this is just such a big game for the Patriots if they want to get a playoff spot. We all know what happens the last time they played the Bills. So I expect them to be testy. It's not a typical Thursday game since both are coming off Thursday games, so they each get the full week to prepare. I like the Patriots +4 here with the points, and I'm leaning towards the under.
So Loeb mentioned it last year in the playoffs. These two teams met in Buffalo, and the Bills absolutely shellacked the Patriots, a beatdown of epic proportions. Definitely seemed like revenge for 2 decades of Belichick and Brady doing the same to Buffalo. That said, a stat that I found that really stood out to me, Josh Allen has 7 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 2 games in New England, and Buffalo has won both of those games. We remember last year in that very windy game up in Buffalo, the Bills lost to the Patriots after the Patriots threw only a handful of times given the weather. But when Josh Allen has played it at Gillette Stadium in New England, he has absolutely torched Bill Belichick in their defense, and I expect a similar outcome this year, given there's no J.C. Jackson in the secondary. Some people think the Patriots' defensive line is better. They're getting more pressure on the quarterback, but I don't think their secondary is nearly as good as it has been in years past, and Josh Allen beat him then. So, to that point, I love Buffalo on the money line. I think that's an easy bet. I'm going the opposite direction of Lope. I'm actually considering, I haven't put money down on it yet, but I'm considering Buffalo minus 3.5 after you buy 1.5 because I believe the Buffalo Bills are a significantly better team on their roster. I also think the Bills are motivated in this game because of where they are in the AFC standings. They aren't the number one seed right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are. However, the Bills own the tiebreaker between the Chiefs and the Bills if they finish with the same record at the end of the year. So the Bills, one game behind the Chiefs in that chase. I think this is a really important game for the Bills. I think they're going to come in motivated. The fact that both of these teams played on Thanksgiving means neither team is playing on a short week. Both got regular rest. I feel really good about the Buffalo Bills. One note about the Patriots, Damian Harris will not play in this game. So Ramondre Stevenson, the star running back of the Patriots, he will be asked to do even more in this game for many, many reasons. I really like the Buffalo Bills. The one last note I will give, to Lope's point, I am considering the under in this game. Right now, the under, I would buy it up to 44.5. The only reason I'm not making that bet right now, and there's a little bit of hesitation, is because I could see the Bills putting up so much offense that maybe that gets broken and it goes over. That said, the trends lean towards the under. I am considering the under. Lope, are there any fantasy or player prop plays that you're considering for this game?
Well, if what you said is true with Josh Allen, I think Stephon Diggs is always a possibility. And then on the Patriots side, Mac Jones had a good game, so I would look for maybe see some of his passing props and see if he can get have a repeat performance from the game versus the Vikings.
Josh Allen has not only been good on the ground against opposing defenses, but he has torched the Patriots on the ground as well. I think that's one of the dynamic parts of his game that makes it so hard for the Patriots to try to control him. So I'm going to check out what his rushing totals, what Josh Allen's rushing total player prop is for Thursday night. That may be one that I look to take the over. That's the Thursday night game, an AFC East battle with a lot of playoff implications on the line. Let's now move to the Sunday 1 p.m. slate of games. Plenty of action. Before we do that, I do want to call out the two teams that are on a bye week. Only two this week. The Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals. They're the two teams on a bye. As I mentioned a moment ago, Bills and Patriots kicking off Week 13 on Thursday Night Football. As for Sunday at 1 p.m., the first game we're going to get into, the 3-8 Denver Broncos travel to Baltimore to play the 7-4 Ravens on CBS. Where I see it, the Ravens are 9-point favorites, and the over-under is set at 38.5 points. Some gambling trends for you before we break it down for you. The favorite is 7-2 against the spread in the last 9 meetings between the Broncos and Ravens. The Broncos are 2-5 against the spread versus a team with a winning record this year. The Ravens are 11-2 against the spread in their last 13 games in December. The under is 4-0 in the Broncos' last 4 road games, and the under is 4-0 in the Ravens' last 4 home games. Lope, what are your thoughts on Broncos-Ravens?
Well, the Ravens definitely let me down last week, and the Broncos still look anemic. So I think that there's definite strong play. I think the Ravens need it more, but with these high spreads, it's probably too much. I might consider taking a page out of your book and buying the Broncos up a little bit and hoping they can cover. The over-under in these Broncos games are just so wacky, but 38.5 seems too low for me to go with the under, and I don't feel comfortable enough going on the over. So I'd probably just take the Broncos, buy up some points, and see where that lands.
Wow, I am shocked that, Lope, you're even believing even in putting money down on the Denver Broncos. I understand I'm doing the same in consideration. Denver plus 10.5 is a really juicy bet only because this season we've seen teams that have that double-digit spread usually cover. That said, the Denver Broncos, to me, are one of the biggest jokes of the NFL season. They've been an absolute disappointment. Russell Wilson, I mentioned it in a rant from this past Sunday. Not only is he a tool off the field with all of his antics, but on the field, he is simply a lacking quarterback at this point. I feel so bad for the Denver Broncos and their fans. You got to feel like you just paid a king's ransom and you got a pauper in its place. So instead of getting the king, you got the pawn in the trade. Seahawks definitely got the better of it. People are already talking about it like it's a Herschel Walker trade. I don't think it'll live up to quite that standard. But that said, the Broncos are a mess. Their offense is a mess. Russell Wilson, I have absolutely no faith in. So while I am considering Denver plus 10.5, I really don't want to put my money down on that. I'll wait to see if that moves over the course of the week. If Sunday morning I can get Denver at like 13 plus 13, that would be a bet I'm comfortable with. But even plus 10.5 right now, I just wonder where they're going to get their offense from. That said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Baltimore on the money line. We are also considering the under 40 points after you buy a 1.5. The reason we're thinking about the under, those two trends that we mentioned a moment ago, the under is 4-0 in the Broncos' last 4 road games. The under is 4-0 in the Ravens' last 4 home games. The Ravens haven't been nearly as good offensively as people expected. As I mentioned again in a rant after their game on Sunday, they just don't have any star wide receivers. If not for Mark Andrews, who is Lamar Jackson throwing the ball to? Devin Duvernay is a nice option. He's not a wide receiver 1. I'm not even sure he's a wide receiver 2. He's a very talented, versatile player, but they are seriously lacking a primetime target that Lamar Jackson can go to in the wide receiver position. Obviously, he's got Mark Andrews. The fact that they lack that, I wonder where they're going to get their offense from if it's not Lamar Jackson running around. Keep in mind, the Broncos are one of the best defenses in the NFL, so you have a great Broncos defense going up a kind of lacking Ravens offense. And on the other side, you have a bad Broncos offense going up against the bad Ravens defense. So to me, this is one where I'm not crazy about the spread. As I mentioned, I'll wait for public money to come down. But Baltimore on the money line and the under is where we're looking at this game right now. Lope, are there any players you're considering for fantasy or a player prop?
I mean, both offenses are pretty anemic. I was expecting maybe just an ugly game. If there's any player, it's going to – I think the best offensive player on the field is going to be Lamar Jackson, so maybe a touchdown or 2 on the ground for him.
The only action from the Broncos offense that I would even consider is Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton has been the favorite target of Russell Wilson, and consistently he gets his targets, he gets his receptions. I actually feel like Courtland Sutton is actually a very reliable player week in, week out, whether it's in fantasy or gambling props. Other than that, I would sell the entire Broncos offense for a bag of peanuts right now. They're just not reliable enough. Moving on to the next game we're going to break down for you, the 4-7 Cleveland Browns going up against the 1-9-1 Houston Texans. This game is on CBS, and where I see it, the Browns are 7.5-point favorites with the over-under set at 47 points. Giving you some gambling trends, the Browns are 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 games following a straight-up win. The Texans are 1-5 in their last 6 games overall. That's against the spread. The under is 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between the two teams, and the over is 6-1-1 in the Browns' last 8 games versus the AFC. Before I let Lope break this one down, of course, the big news in this one, Deshaun Watson is back on the field, back with the Browns, and expected to be the starting quarterback, despite Jacoby Brissett leading the Browns to a late-game overtime win against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. He will be moved back to a bench role as Deshaun Watson comes off of his suspension for being an absolutely terrible human being, and now he gets to play football again. And if you didn't think the NFL schedulers knew what they were doing, this game, of course, is at Houston, so Deshaun Watson's first game in a Browns uniform is against his former team in their stadium. You can't script it any better. Lope, what's your take on this one?
With Deshaun Watson coming back, it's just too much of an unknown, so I'm a little scared on the line. But one thing that does stand out is this Texans rush defense is absolutely terrible, and the Browns have one of the best running backs in Chubb. So I would feel comfortable maybe in a Browns win, but the spread and folding that into a parlay, but the spread is too much of a unknown with not knowing how Deshaun Watson is going to be since we haven't seen him in a long, long time.
I feel the way you do, Lope, which is I'm someone who a lot of people will ask me, whether it's fantasy, player props, or even gambling on a game, how do you feel about a player that we haven't seen in a while? And I'll usually say, as much as you may have an instinct or a suspicion as to how they're going to perform, wait a week. Don't risk your money without the information to back it up. This is one of those times. I'm completely with you, Lope. I don't know what Deshaun Watson's going to look like. I know how talented he is on the football field. I also know how terrible a person he is off the football field, but that's a separate story. That said, he hasn't been taking reps with the first team too often this year. Even when he came back from suspension and had practice reps, they obviously gave Jacoby Brissett a majority of those reps. So this is the first week since training camp in which Deshaun Watson has been treated and behaved and been inserted into that starting quarterback role. What's his chemistry going to be like with his wide receivers? How is the offense going to perform with him under center and with his leadership? The fact that I have so many questions that need to be answered, it's one of the reasons I'm not crazy about the spread. The Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game is easy. It is the Browns on the money line. They're just the more talented team. And Lope brought up a great point. The Houston Texans are the worst team in the NFL against the run, and they're going up against arguably the best running back in the NFL in Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb in this game. I love his player props. I love him in fantasy. I love everything about him. That said, Butt Fumble Sports loves Cleveland on the money line. We are considering Houston to cover 9 points. That would be buying up the 1.5, getting Houston +9. We saw last week the Houston Texans are a backdoor cover play waiting to happen. They can get blown out in the first half. They keep fighting. I mentioned it last Sunday in our pregame show before Week 12. When you have a 53-man roster, those guys, we may laugh at it. We may think they're a joke. They're trying to keep their career going one more week, one more year. They're trying to get a paycheck doing a job and career that they love, and so they will do anything. The difference between college football players and pro football players is that professionalism. A college football player, when he's out of the college football playoff or he's out of bowl contention, he kind of mails it in. A pro football player, man, if you don't put a good film together, you may not have a job next year or even next week. So I think the Houston Texans, you're going to see grown men fight for their job, fight for their livelihood. I don't expect this to be a blowout game. I also think a lot of the Houston Texans have feelings of their own about Deshaun Watson, whether they felt burned because he wanted to be traded or whether they feel like he abandoned the franchise or whether they just think he's a bad person. I think there's going to be a lot of motivation in this game. It's one of the reasons, again, Cleveland on the money line is the pick I'm advising. Houston to cover is something I'm considering. I'll wait to see how public money comes down throughout the week. I think there's an opportunity to actually get that at a better spread because I think public money is going to come down on the Browns. So I could see Houston +10, +10.5, +11. That will be the place that I probably make a play. As for the total, I really like the under in this game. That would be under 48.5 after I buy the 1.5. In the last 11 meetings between the two teams, the under is 8-3. And to Lope's point, the fact that I don't know what Deshaun Watson may give me means I lean towards the under, thinking he's not going to be super crisp or outstanding in his first game back. If I'm wrong, so be it, but that would only help my Cleveland money line play. Blease, you got your hand up. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just want to give you're buying a point and a half. So I did that last weekend with the Texans, and it ended up being a push because I got them at +15, and they lost by 15. So that was great. And yeah, and one thing I want to say about that too, about they're professionals. Like I also look at their bonuses, like for catches and runs that they're trying to hit. Like a lot of these lower level guys, they're trying to hit these bonuses throughout the season. And so money's a great motivator to keep them going, not only keep their job, but they're looking at these bonuses. And so I think that keeps these games closer than a lot of people think. So yeah, completely agree. I like the Texans.
It's a great point by Blease. The incentives are across the board, whether there's personal motivation going up against a former teammate in Deshaun Watson, whether there's career motivation, I want to stay in the NFL, I want to stay a pro football player, I need to put good tape together, or whether it's a financial incentive that's much more immediate, I need to get my catches, I need to have a certain number of snaps, I need to have a certain number of tackles or sacks. There is reason that grown men playing pro football have reason on every Sunday to give their best. So I know we think a lot of these guys just mail it in, Well, they're mailing it in, and then they're going to be your mailman next week. So usually I don't feel that way. I think this game is going to be more competitive than people think. But I think this is the kind of game in which it's not a good game, but I'm dying to see it on Red Zone because I want to see Deshaun Watson's performance. I want to see how the crowd responds to him. I want to hear about how the broadcast talks about him. This is one of the most bizarre situations the NFL has gone through. This would be, to me, the equivalent of if Ray Rice got a second chance and was brought back into the NFL. How would CBS handle that broadcast? So I'm really curious to see how it plays out. That said, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Cleveland on the money line, and we are considering the under 48.5. Just to have all those who are joining us appreciate it. Tommy, Lope, Blease, Meta Party Vibes, John, Ray, Yoni, thank you all of you for joining us in the Twitter space. And for all of those who are joining us on YouTube as we stream live from the metaverse, thank you so much. We love our audience. We love your participation. We want you to engage with us. Butt Fumble Sports, we believe every fan is on-air talent. Join the conversation. We would love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble on Twitter and at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Blease, did you have something else for us?
Yeah, I just saw a note from ESPN saying that 10 of the girls that accused him are going to be at the game. So in your talks about the coverage and like how his welcome, like I just feel like that is going to play a factor in his head. And I wonder if like other players will see that too and feel that. I just think it is a big unknown. And I think that will mess with a player though.
Unfortunately, I see this one very differently than you do. I think if Deshaun Watson was the terrible person that clearly these court cases are suggesting, I don't think he cares if these women are in the stands. He didn't care they were on the sidelines after he did terrible things with them. So I don't think that's going to necessarily play as big a role in this as you may think. I think the motivation more isn't so much on, is Deshaun Watson going to feel the pressure of these 10 women in the stands? I don't think he cares. I think he's such a terrible person. He's blocked that out of his mind. To me, it's the Texans. Are the Texans going to fight? First of all, Lovie Smith should be done. I don't know why they hired him in the first place, but this is probably his last run as head coach of the Texans in the final few weeks. So are these players going to fight for their head coach? Are they going to fight against a teammate who abandoned them? And is there any motivation on their part just to have some pride? I mean, the Texans right now only have one win this year, and it came against the Jaguars on the road. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm wondering, are the Texans going to be motivated in this game? It's something I like to keep an eye on. Obviously, there are gambling trends, there are stats, but then there's that human component that also plays a factor. Are these men motivated to come out and run through a brick wall 50 times on Sunday? I hope so. I would love to see Deshaun Watson lose, but I doubt it. The Butt Fumble Sports, again, the pick for this one is Cleveland on the money line. Moving to the next game on the Sunday 1 p.m. window, the 7-5 Washington Commanders play the 7-4 New York Giants. This game is on Fox. Washington is a 2.5-point favorite where I see it, and the over-under is set at 40.5 points. Some gambling trends before we go around and break it down. The Commanders are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 road games. The Giants are 4-1 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. The road team is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams, and the under is 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between the Commanders and the Giants. Lope, what are your thoughts for this NFC East showdown?
Two teams definitely going in the different directions. The Giants started out hot and now have cooled off, whereas the Commanders started out slow and are now heating up. I think that at -2.5, there's definitely some value of taking Washington. It is a divisional game, so it's going to be close. You don't want that to go in the wrong direction on you. And the Commanders have won 6 of their last 7, so the money line is also a play if you don't want to mess around with the points. As for the over-under, I would say there's a slight lean to the under, but I might wait on that and see what you get at the end of the week. Taylor Heineke has definitely proven me wrong. I doubted him a lot, but I think he can get the win. He just looks better track than Daniel Jones.
So Lope got Taylor Heineke wrong. I'm proud to say I nailed Taylor Heineke dead on. This guy has been a journeyman for years, but whenever he comes in, he is a proficient quarterback. He throws the ball downfield. He has good chemistry with his wide receivers. Where Carson Wentz just a total disaster. I'm so happy that Ron Rivera made this move, and Taylor Heineke has validated it. In a bad performance last week by Heineke, the Commanders still won. To me, that was a really important game. I was expecting it was going to be a win for the Commanders, no problem. It was one of my best bets, and it did hit that they covered. But it was a sloppy game, bad weather, turnovers, and the Commanders still came out and won. That tells me a lot about this team. They are turning the corner at the perfect time, and one piece that's falling right into place, Chase Young. Chase Young didn't play last week. He was out with an illness. He was supposed to make his season debut after tearing an ACL last year and missing all of the season up until this point. They put him on the 53-man roster, but he did not play with illness. He is expected to be back for this week. I absolutely have Chase Young getting a sack on Daniel Jones in this one. That's a player prop I do like. But for me, Vegas is telling you something. The New York Giants, for weeks now, have been given the benefit of the doubt because of the hot start they had been on. But they have disappointed now. They had a backdoor cover against the Cowboys last week, but the Giants have really disappointed the last few weeks, in part because we've seen the decline of Daniel Jones. He's just not nearly as good as he was 5 weeks ago. So Vegas is tipping you off to something. Vegas is telling you they really believe in the Commanders, and they're kind of baiting people, I think, into taking the Giants on the cover. I'm not going to take the bait. The Butt Fumble Sports pick right now for this one absolutely is Washington on the money line. We are considering the Giants as a cover play, but I'm going to wait to see where public money comes down. If that public money shrinks the spread and actually the Giants become, let's say, -2, -1.5, I'd actually look to start taking the Commanders in that. However, for now, at +4, given that I can get the field goal difference, I'm considering the Giants, but for me, I feel much better about the Commanders on the money line. That's a bet I really like. As for the total, I'm considering the under as well. The trends play into that. The under is 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between the two teams, and the under is 4-0 in the Commanders' last 4 games following a straight-up win. The under seems to be the play when it comes to the trends, so I am considering the under 42 after I buy the 1.5. Lope, Terry McLaurin has really come on in the last few weeks with Taylor Heineke under center. Is Terry McLaurin a player worth looking at this week in fantasy?
I think so, and especially in fantasy and in all player props. The Giants have pretty much a mediocre pass offense, and I think they're going to be sucked up on the run a lot. So there's definitely going to be chances for Speedy Terry to get free deep.
Appreciate everyone joining us on Twitter Space. @SportsFumble is our handle on Twitter. Follow us, join the conversation. Tommy, Sweetest Pete, Blease, Lope, Meta Party Vibes, Carol, Tim. Appreciate all of you guys joining us on Twitter Space. And of course, we're streaming on YouTube from our Metaverse studio. Join us, follow us @ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And as I mentioned a moment ago, @SportsFumble on Twitter. We want to engage with you. We want to hear your takes. We believe every fan has a take worth hearing, and we want to hear it from you. So engage with us, reach out. We'd love to hear your analysis. The next game in the 1 p.m. window for NFL Week 13 is the 4-7 Jacksonville Jaguars against the 4-7 Detroit Lions. This game is on Fox. Where I see it, the Lions are a 1-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 51.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The favorite is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the Jags and Lions. The Jaguars are 1-7-1 against the spread in their last 9 road games. The Lions are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games overall. The over is 6-1 in the Jaguars' last 7 road games, and the over is 5-2 in the Lions' last 7 home games. Lope, what are your thoughts on Jaguars-Lions?
Well, out of all the good matchups, we were bound to get one bad one. But I think that the play, I've liked what I've seen with the Lions all year. They're scrappy. The Jaguars have lost 21 of their last 22 road games. They're terrible on the road. So I think the Lions' money line is a pretty good play here. And all 4 of the last 5 Jags games have gone under. So that's definitely a play. So I think I'm going to go with the Lions' money line and the under.
Lope, you are way off base on this one. I love this game. This game to me is about teams that aren't great right now, but are on the come up. You saw last week what Trevor Lawrence was capable of. He had an outstanding game, Doug Peterson, I thought that was his best win as a head coach of the Jaguars. I think it was a defining moment for the franchise. One of their players came out after the game and said, I would do anything right now for Doug Peterson. I love playing for him. I think that was a really important moment for the Jaguars in the maturation of this team. On the other side, the Detroit Lions have been through that. They got some big wins last year, and you're seeing them start to put things together. Dan Campbell, you might have thought he was a meathead or a steak or a weirdo, but you know what? This guy is an unbelievable motivator. He's a better coach than we thought. He's getting the most out of this team. One of the reasons, Jamal Williams. Not only did we know DeAndre Swift was good, but Jamal Williams has had a fabulous year. Jared Goff has played better than I think a lot of people thought he would. And as I've been saying since preseason, the Lions invested in their offensive line. They have a really good offensive line. They can run the ball. They can pass block. This is a good team in the trenches. And Aiden Hutchinson, what an outstanding pick. I know he was the second pick overall. The Jaguars, obviously, they took the first pick with Walker, and now you wonder if they made the right move because Aiden Hutchinson is playing like a defensive rookie of the year. I don't know if he'll win it because of Sauce Gardner, but that was an outstanding pick. They got it right, and it just tells you the Lions are on the right track. They're building at the right positions. They're building through the draft correctly. They might get their star wide receiver, Jameson Williams, out of Alabama back. He was out with injury. I don't think he'll be back this week. I think it'll be next week. It's on the fringes for this week. I don't think they'll push it. But that said, everything is going the Lions' way. And I'm really excited about this game because, to me, this is two teams on the come-up. These are two bands that haven't had a number one hit yet, but they're both making their strides towards it. And I love to see the come-up story. So for me, I'm really excited about this game. That said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Detroit to cover right now. I don't like Detroit's defense, but I love their offense. I think they're going to control enough of the clock in this game. They're going to move the ball well against the Jaguars defense, and that's what's giving me the lean towards the Lions. I just can't trust the Jaguars are going to get back-to-back wins. That said, a play I like in this game is the total. I like the over. I'd buy it down to 50 points. Right now it's at 51.5, so I'd buy the 1.5, and I would take over 50 points. Trevor Lawrence, like I mentioned, had a great game last week. He's now going up against a terrible defense. Jared Goff and the Lions offense has played well this year. They're going up against a bad defense. I think this is an opportunity for a lot of points, a lot of action. I think this is a game that's going to be on red zone more than everyone thinks because there's going to be a lot of scoring. The only concern I have when it comes to the over is the status of Travis Etienne. Etienne left last week's game with injury. I wonder if he's going to be back. If he's not, I do think that plays a bit of a factor in the points. One player I do want to call out, you'll see it in one of our waiver wire watch videos that we'll post within the next 2 days. JaMycal Hasty. That's Jamical. JaMycal Hasty, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had to step in for Travis Etienne last week. 12 carries, 28 rushing yards, 5 receptions for 67 yards, including a receiving touchdown. He had a pretty good game. He's only rostered in 0.8% of fantasy leagues. You heard that right. Under 1% of fantasy leagues has Hasty on their roster. He might be a good addition to your team if Travis Etienne isn't available for this one. Just something to consider. But if Travis Etienne can't play, the over doesn't feel as good. I assume that'll bring the public money down. I'm assuming people will start to take the under. That may make me feel better. The ceiling goes down. I would still take the over. But JaMycal Hasty, someone you want to consider, and keep your eye on Travis Etienne's status. That said, Lope, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, are there any players on either side? Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are there any players on either side that you're interested in a player prop bet or in fantasy?
Well, you mentioned the guy, Jamal Williams. He seems to be a touchdown machine. And also, I think we've said Amon-Ra St. Brown's name about every week. He's just that special and spectacular. I definitely could see him having a big day.
Appreciate everyone joining us on Twitter Spaces. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble, and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. The next game we're going to break down for you is the 7-4 New York Jets against the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, the Vikings are a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 45.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The favorite is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. The Jets are 4-1 against the spread, in their last 5 road games. The Vikings are 4-1-1 against the spread in their last 6 games overall. The under is 5-1 in the Jets' last 6 games overall, and the over is 8-2 in the Vikings' last 10 home games. Lope, how are you feeling about Jets Vikings?
Obviously, the Jets found some new mojo with the different quarterback play. It seems like it was the right call to sit Zach Wilson, even though I was a little skeptical at first. But the Vikings are very tough, and especially at home, they've won 8 of their last 9. I don't know that I feel good about the 3. I think I would stick with the money line, but I think that it is interesting that Vegas has them almost about even because you usually get 3 points for being at home. 5 of the last 6 Jets games have gone under. 46 seems a little high to me, so I would lean towards the under, but I think the Vikings money line is the play.
This is one of the most challenging games of the week for me to pick. I'm leaning towards Minnesota on the money line, and I'm leaning towards the Jets covering 4.5 after I buy the 1.5. The reason I'm leaning in those directions, one, it puts me in a very safe position. I'm on both sides of the seesaw. Either Minnesota wins on the money line or the Jets cover, but one of the two is going to happen. So that's part of the reason I'm kind of leaning that way. The other reason is Mike White was outstanding. Mike White was so good, I really don't know what to make of his performance. As much as I want to kind of throw it out with the bathwater, there's something that tells me that Mike White inserted into this lineup is going to be a positive for the Jets offense. You saw what Garrett Wilson did. You saw what Elijah Moore did. I expect Tyler Conklin, their tight end, to have better production with Mike White in. I think the Jets offense took a massive step forward just by having a capable, competent quarterback inserted into the starting lineup. For that reason, normally I would take the under. Normally I would take the under based off of how the Jets defense is playing. That said, I think the Jets offense could put up enough points, combined with the Vikings putting up enough points, where the over might be attractive to me. So with the total, I'm staying away from it on Tuesday. I may watch how that public money comes down throughout the week. And come Sunday morning, there may be an opportunity to take it over or under. Depends how the public pushes the money. But for me, I'm skipping the total as of right now. But I'm considering Minnesota on the money line because Minnesota at home, other than when they play the Cowboys, has been cash money this year. They are a good team at home, especially when it's a 1 p.m. game. This is a 1 p.m. at home Kirk Cousins we're going to see. I expect that's going to be the best possible version of Cousins. So for that reason, I'm leaning towards Minnesota on the money line. But again, I don't know if I just saw an outlier from Mike White or if I saw what we can come to expect from him last week. The Bears are a really bad defense. Let's just call it what it is. The Bears are a bad defense. They made Mike White look good. They made the Jets offense look good. Does that repeat itself? I'm on the fence. I'm standing out on that limb. I'm not quite sure. So for that reason, I'm going to hedge. I'm going to do both ways. Minnesota on the money line, Jets to cover, plus 4.5. The only thing about this game, though, that I want to call out and put under a spotlight, Justin Jefferson versus Sauce Gardner. Let's go. That is arguably the best wide receiver in the league going up against one of the best upcoming cornerbacks in the league. You could just spotlight that matchup all day. I love Red Zone, but I would watch these two guys go at it for an entire afternoon, solo channel style. I am so excited for that matchup. You saw what Sauce Gardner did last week. He can lock up anyone. And Justin Jefferson, he made Bill Belichick look bad. How often does a wide receiver do that? So excited for that matchup. Definitely standing out to me. That said, Lope, Justin Jefferson going up against Sauce Gardner, is there any reason to fade Justin Jefferson in fantasy or in a player prop this week?
I mean, he's one of the most talented ones. So if anyone can break Sauce Gardner, be him. But I would be skeptical. And the other big matchup is this Jets defensive line versus the Vikings offensive line. I've definitely had questions. I don't know how much time Kirk Cousins is going to get to throw, so that there might be smaller screens and more of a running focus. So I don't know if he'll get the targets, especially with a dangerous corner like Sauce Gardner.
There are a lot of coaches right now who are being mentioned as a potential coach of the year. I'm not hearing enough about Robert Saleh. This guy has been so good this year, and he's gone through the trials and tribulations. He had to deal with backup quarterbacks to start the year. He had to deal with a lot of doubt, hence the "we're collecting receipts" comment. He's done such a good job of developing this defense. He's a defensive-minded head coach. This defense is now a top 5 defense in the NFL. They're playing week after week. They're getting better. And he's managed the quarterback controversy, I think, incredibly well. So if Robert Saleh and the Jets make the playoffs, I might have him as my NFL coach of the year. Obviously, they have to get there and do it for that to be the case. But I want to make special note. I think Robert Saleh has been one of the best head coaches in the NFL this season. Appreciate everyone joining us as we go through the NFL Week 3 early lines, players to pick up on the waiver wire, fantasy plays, gambling prop bets, everything you need to get ready for the NFL week. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Let's keep it going. The next game in the 1 p.m. window is the 4-8 Green Bay Packers going up against the 3-9 Chicago Bears. This game is on Fox. Where I see it, the Packers are a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 42.5 points. Some gambling trends. The favorite is 20-8 against the spread in the last 28 meetings between the two teams. The over is 6-0 in the Bears' last 6 games overall. The over is 4-1 in the Packers' last 5 versus the NFC, and the over is 4-1 in the Bears' last 5 versus the NFC. As for quarterbacks, I don't have an update on Justin Fields, not quite sure of his status. But as for Aaron Rodgers, he came out today on the Pat McAfee show, which apparently is the best way to find out what's on Aaron Rodgers' mind. And he said he is feeling much better. He thinks he's going to be able to play. There's still some questions out of the Packers front office as to whether Rodgers is going to play. But I fully expect that Rodgers will be on the field. Jordan Love will not be starting this game. And that's good news. One stat I want to point out before I turn it over to Lope for his analysis. Aaron Rodgers' career stats versus the Bears, he is 23-5 with 63 passing touchdowns and just 10 interceptions. The last time Rodgers lost to the Bears was December of 2018. That's before a global pandemic. That's how long ago that was. Lope, what are your thoughts on Packers-Bears?
Well, as you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers and his still own the Bears thing is going to be chanted a lot. He's won, I think, their last 7 games against the Bears or something. So we talked about it earlier. The Bears defense just isn't good. There might be a reason why he wants to play is to pad some stats. There's just nothing to believe in the Bears. They're completely falling apart. And until we get a Justin Fields update, I think that minus 4.5 for the Packers should be good. I'd like to see Aaron Rodgers humbled and have a come-upping against the Bears, but I just don't believe enough in it. So I'm going to go with the Packers minus 4.5. And I think the over is definitely in play. I would consider the over 43.5.
Whenever player owns an opposing team, like Rodgers owns the Bears, I can't buck that trend. I know Rodgers hasn't played his best football this year. I know he's injured. There's so many reasons for me to not believe in the Packers, but the ownership factor trumps all of them. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is absolutely the Packers on the money line. I would consider the cover as well. Lope, you're talking about 4.5, where I saw it the Packers are 3-point favorites. If I could buy it down to Packers minus 1.5, I like that. If you're seeing it at 4.5 and I have to buy it down to 3, I feel less good about it. But if I can get Packers under 3, so 2.5 or better, I feel really good about it. Because, yeah, I feel like Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they just own the Bears. They have their number. They know how to attack that defense. I think there is a lot of reasons to feel good about the Bears if Justin Fields was playing, but I don't expect him to be. That said, I am looking at both running backs in this one. David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, I think both could have big days. I would look towards the running games in this one. It's part of the reason where I'm thinking about the under because I like the running backs. But that said, I go towards the trends. The over is 4-1 in the Packers' last 5 versus NFC opponents. The over is 4-1 in the Bears' last 5 versus NFC opponents. There seem to be a lot of points. I'm going to wait on that. I want to hear the status of Justin Fields. I want to hear the status of Aaron Rodgers. One player I do like from a waiver wire standpoint, Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb is the number 1 receiver for Rodgers, not in terms of stats. That's been Christian Watson. But in terms of familiarity and comfort, Randall Cobb is the security blanket that Rodgers goes to. Given that it's the Bears, don't you feel like Rodgers and Cobb just know this opposing team so well? Don't you feel like Cobb's going to put up good points or good stats? That's one of the reasons I'm recommending him if you need a wide receiver from the waiver wire. That said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is the Packers on the money line. We'll give you more takes on this as the week goes along. Definitely join us on Sunday morning as we break this game down. Again, that's 10 a.m. on Sundays on Twitter Space, and we go on TikTok Live afterwards. We will definitely have more on this game once we get some of the injury reports in. The next game in the 1 p.m. window that we're going to go through is the 4-7 Pittsburgh Steelers against the 5-7 Atlanta Falcons. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, the Falcons are a 1.5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 42 points. Some gambling trends before we break it down. The Steelers are 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 road games. The Falcons are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games overall. The under is 4-1 in the Falcons' last 5 games in December, and the over is 5-2 in the Falcons' last 7 games following a straight-up loss. Lope, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'll try not to overreact too much of what I saw, but the Steelers' defense, as T.J. Watt got healthy, has gotten a lot better. And there's just not a whole lot to like from Marcus Mariota and the Falcons offense. Their rushing game has been good, but this is a stout Steelers rushing defense. So I definitely could see the Steelers winning this one even on the road. I think that's the strongest play. I'm not really too hot on the over-under yet. It seems a little high. If I was to lean away, it'd be the under. But I think I'm going to take the Steelers and swallow the points.
We feel a little similarly on this one. I like the Steelers. I like what I saw from them last night, but it wasn't their defense. I was really impressed by their offense. I'm not big on Kenny Pickett. I think he throws a bit too much of a fastball. He doesn't have enough touch or enough arc. He kind of reminds me a little bit, if you remember how Colin Kaepernick would throw a pass, he would throw a dart like every time, but it was very flat, a very straight pass. And I feel like that gives you so little margin for error because there's no loft, no touch on it. It's either dead on the nose or it's too high. The release point's off. There's just too much heat on it. So Kenny Pickett, I was impressed by his performance. I'm not crazy about his mechanics, but I think you're seeing the Steelers offense start to make some strides, at least in the passing game. And the Falcons are one of the worst secondaries, one of the worst defenses against the pass. Funny enough, so are the Steelers. I know last night they did better on defense, but these are 2 of the worst defenses against the pass in the NFL. They give up points. They give up yardage. I like the Steelers to cover. That one's easy for me. Steelers plus 1.5. If you want to buy the 1.5 and take Steelers plus 3, I feel very good about that bet. But that said, I like the over in this game. I would buy the 1.5, get it 40.5, and take the over. I actually think that the Falcons will put up the fact that this game is at Atlanta, I think helps. I think the Falcons will offensively play better at home in the Dome. As for the Steelers, I just feel like they're starting to make strides. George Pickens is a player I would consider picking up off the waiver wire. He's starting to play better. Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, he's a good start in fantasy every week. So for all these reasons, I like the Steelers. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick of this one is the Steelers to cover. The final game in the 1 p.m. window on Sunday is the 7-4 Tennessee Titans against the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles. This game is on Fox. The Eagles are a 5.5-point favorite where I see it, and the over-under is set at 44.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Titans are 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 games overall. The Eagles are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 home games. The Titans are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 meetings against the Eagles. And the over is 4-0-1 in the last 5 meetings between the 2 teams. Lope, what are your thoughts on Titans-Eagles?
Yeah, this is definitely just a good matchup. A good Eagles team versus a well-coached Titans team. And I think I'm going to follow some of the trends you were talking about. Titans covering the spread in 8 of their last 9. I think +5 is a good number to get them. And 10 of the Eagles' last 11 home games are the over, so that's definitely where I would lean to. Interesting to see a stout Titans rush defense versus a very good Eagles rush offense. I think that's the key matchup to the game. But I think the Titans +5 is a good number.
I think that's a great take, Lope. Good job on you, because to me, it's all about who wins that battle. The running game of the Eagles offense, the run defense of the Titans defense. Who's going to win that? Who's going to control the line of scrimmage? I think Miles Sanders won't have as good a game, obviously, as he had last week, but I think Jalen Hurts could continue to be just a killer with his legs. I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to scramble, get yardage. That said, the Titans secondary is not good against the pass. So A.J. Brown, depending on what his health status is, I don't know if you heard, he went through some crazy health events this past weekend. He has like a ruptured eye because of some like violent vomiting. He's been through the storm over the last few days. So I don't know if I'm crazy about A.J. Brown with everything he's going through, but I really like Devontae Smith for this game. I think this is an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to continue to make his MVP argument. I lean towards Philadelphia on the money line. Much like Lope, I'm leaning towards Tennessee to cover. I feel like the fact that I can get Tennessee at +7 when I buy the 1.5, that's just a great place to be. Do I really think that Mike Vrabel and his Titans will lose by a touchdown after losing at home against the Bengals? I don't. I think they're going to have a good bounce back game, but this is going to be a physical game. This is Derrick Henry going up against some big boys on the Eagles defensive line. Either way, no matter who's on offense, who's on defense, this is going to be a fabulous game to watch in the trenches. Really excited about it. Think it's going to be physical, intense, fun. I do lean towards Tennessee to cover, and I lean towards the Eagles on the money line. Lope, are there any players from this game that you have your eye on for fantasy or prop bets?
Devontae Smith is definitely a key one, and I think Jalen Hurts, you mentioned it, Jalen Hurts' passing props, I think, are very good. This is as good as the Titans are rush defenses, they are vulnerable against the pass. So I think that this is going to be Jalen Hurts' time to shine, to say his arms is just as good as his leg.
Appreciate everyone joining us tonight on Twitter Spaces at Sports Fumble. At Sports Fumble is our Twitter handle. And please follow us and subscribe on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. That's at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Butt Fumble Sports, we want to democratize sports media. We believe every fan can be on-air talent. The difference between you and the guys you see on TV is very, very small. Reach out to us. Coaching, production resources, distribution. We believe we can turn you into on-air talent. Give us that opportunity. We would love to work with you if you're a sports fan. Let's move on to the 4 p.m. games on Sunday as the 8-3 Miami Dolphins play the 7-4 San Francisco 49ers. This game is on Fox. The 49ers, where we see it, are 3.5-point favorites, and the over-under is set at 46.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The road team is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. The 49ers are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 home games. The over is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the two teams, and the under is 6-1 in the 49ers' last 7 home games. This should be one of the prime, big-time matchups of the week. Lope, what are your thoughts on Dolphins 49ers?
Well, the strongest play, I think, is definitely the under. I think you said 6 of the last 7 49ers home games have gone under. The key thing is Terron Armstead probably not playing, and then Austin Jackson, the right tackle, versus a very good 49ers defensive line. So that scares me if Tua can't stay upright. Obviously, there's the history between Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan, Jeff Wilson coming over. So I don't know if that helps the Dolphins or they can get any tips. But with the being in San Francisco, and I think they're just right now a team nobody wants to play, I think you have to lean. The -4 seems a little bit maybe high, but I think definitely the 49ers on the money line right now is a strong play. As far as the spread, I'd probably wait on that. But I think with the Dolphins having to go on the road against the 49ers, that the 49ers will win this. If it was in Miami, it might be a different story. But with it being in San Fran, I think the Niners are the play.
I almost agree with everything Lope said. I think he got a lot of things right. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one does include the 49ers on the money line. I like them at home. Man, this defense is so good. And obviously on offense, they have a Pro Bowl roster now that they've added Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kittle, Ayuk. I mean, the weapons, I know Elijah Mitchell's back out, but just so many weapons for Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan. They are spoiled there in San Francisco. However, where I disagree with Lope is I think now is a time to take this bet. I would not wait until Sunday. You're going to lose your opportunity to take Miami because I think public money is going to come down on Miami to cover. One of the reasons we do this show on Tuesday, Butt Fumble Sports is a big believer that Tuesday and Sunday morning are two of your best opportunities to make bets. Tuesday because the lines come out early. This is Vegas trying to make predictions of its own. Public money hasn't come down. There's an injury news, so a lot of opportunities to take advantage of. And then Sunday is the other side of the coin. You have all of this information to work off of. Then you can make a different opinion. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. But today, I really like Miami covering +5. I think this game will be a field goal difference. I think even the 49ers defense is good. Miami will put enough points to stay competitive. And is public good Miami cover, which is going to that spread to a point where we don't get. Buffalo Sport absolutely getting in on this action on Tuesday. San Francisco on the money line. The Dolphins to cover +5 after you buy 1.5. That's the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one. I feel really good about it. If on Sunday, for some reason, that spread swells and we can get Miami at, let's say, +6.5 or even +7, what a blessing that would be. But I feel like public money is going to find some love for Tua and the Dolphins, and that's going to mean that that spread won't look as good come on Sunday. So once again, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is San Francisco on the money line and Miami to cover after you buy 1.5. The next game in the Sunday 4 p.m. window is the 6-5 Seattle Seahawks against the 3-8 Los Angeles Rams. This game's on Fox, and where we see it, Seattle is an 8-point favorite with the over-under set at 41.5 points. Some gambling trends before we go to Lope for some analysis. The favorite is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the two teams. The Rams are 3-9-1 against the spread in their last 13 games overall. And the under is 5-1 in the last 6 meetings between the two teams in LA. Lope, what are your thoughts on Seahawks Rams?
I'm not really too big on much. The Rams have completely fallen apart. It is a divisional game, and that is a lot of points for that reason. But there's just injury after injury and falling apart and so many unknowns where Seattle's still playing for something. If I were to look at something, I think the under 41 is in play. I just don't think that the Rams offense can score anything, even against a shaky Seattle defense. If anything, I'm probably staying away off the spread. I might fold Seattle to win in a parlay on a money line, but I don't have a strong take on either team.
I'm going to be quick on this one to follow up what Lope said, much to a similar way. Usually when we see divisional opponents have a spread of this size, you take the underdog. But because we have so little faith in the Rams, what their health status is, how motivated they are players even contending for this team anymore? I know, remember what I said about the Texans? I don't know if I feel that way about the Rams. You got guys like Aaron Donald who are banged up, and they were considering retirement months ago. I don't know where the Rams' heads are. For that reason, I'm staying away from the spread, but I do love Seattle on the money line. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is absolutely Seattle on the money line. After one of the worst losses of the year to me last week, Seattle was one of my 2 best bets. We cashed with Washington. We lost with Seattle. That was a terrible loss. Josh Jacobs not only beat them, but the manner in which he did it on that walk-off touchdown, I mean, that rips your heart out, Seattle fans. So I think Seattle and Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, they get a bounce-back week this week against a bad opponent. So I like Seattle on the money line. And much like Lope, I am considering the under 43 points after you buy 1.5. Appreciate everyone joining us on Twitter. Follow us at Sports Fumble on Twitter and at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Butt Fumble Sports had a major milestone accomplished earlier today. Over 15,000 followers on TikTok. Unbelievable the kind of growth that we've had over the last few weeks. And that is absolutely a testament to all of you, all of our fans, our followers, our supporters. We believe so much in what we're doing. We love creating sports content and talking to you about sports. Join the conversation. Butt Fumble Sports wants to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Let's keep it going. The next game in the 4 p.m. window is the 6-5 Los Angeles Chargers against the 4-7 Las Vegas Raiders. This game is on CBS, and where I see it, the Chargers are a 2-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 51 points. Some gambling trends. The Chargers are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games. The Raiders are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 versus the AFC West. The Chargers are 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings against the Raiders in Las Vegas, and the over is 4-1 in the Raiders' last 5 home games. Lope, what are your thoughts on Chargers Raiders?
I'm gonna go with the Raiders on the money line, and a little bit of a surprising thing. I know it's usually not one to believe in the team, but they seem to have rallied around Josh McDaniels a little, and they seem to be figuring out some things offensively. The Chargers are up and down a lot, and I still am not a big fan of Brandon Staley and some of these gutsy calls. I just think some of them are going to backfire eventually. So I'm gonna go with the Raiders here, and I'll take the over, even though it's a higher number.
One of our favorite followers, Adam, he sometimes says, if I pick this team again, call me and stop me. Well, I feel that way about the Raiders. I can't put any faith in the Raiders anymore. I know they may be good or better than they have been earlier in the year, but I just have no faith in them week over week. And so as much as I take away from what they did last week, I'm still not going to believe in what I saw. I almost feel like it was a mirage what I saw in Seattle. I just don't think they can put together 2 quality games back to back. I don't believe it. So for that reason, I am considering the Chargers on the money line. They're getting healthier. At wide receiver, they're getting healthier. And maybe more importantly, Justin Herbert finally won a game late. So often we see Justin Herbert put up big stats, have impressive performances, but in the final seconds of a game, he doesn't quite get it done. Last week he did. I thought that was a major moment for his maturation, his development as a young quarterback. I think there's momentum there. And don't forget, Josh McDaniels isn't coaching for his job. Mark Davis has come out and said Josh McDaniels' job is safe. Brandon Staley can't say the same about him. That Chargers job is one of the most attractive opportunities if it becomes available. I mentioned to you on Sunday, Sean Payton has his eyes on that LA Chargers job. So Brandon Staley needs to not only string wins together, he needs to make the playoffs. If the Chargers don't make the playoffs, I don't see Brandon Staley keeping his job. So health, head coach, all the reasons, and a young quarterback, all the reasons that make me feel good about the Chargers. I'll take Chargers on the money line. That's the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one, at least on Tuesday. As for the over-under, we are considering the over 49.5 points. I think there are going to be a lot of points scored in this game. 2 offenses chucking it around the field. To this point, I will agree with Lope. I think the offense of the Raiders, you're starting to see it emerge a little bit better, given that Josh McDaniels is supposed to be an offensive genius. Surprised it took so long. But the Chargers getting healthy on offense, scary. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer, DeAndre Carter, Austin Eckler. That is a poor man San Francisco 49ers. That could be a Pro Bowl roster in 2-3 years, as crazy as it sounds. So I like the Chargers on the money line. I would take the Chargers to cover, but I'm going to wait to see where the public money comes down. It's the only reason I'm not betting it now. The final game in the 4 p.m. window on Sunday is the 9-2 Kansas City Chiefs against the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals. This game is on CBS, and we'll have the number 1 team with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo calling it. The Chiefs are a 2.5-point favorite where we see it, and the over-under is set at 52.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Chiefs are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games in December. The Bengals are 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 home games. The Chiefs are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 meetings against the Bengals in Cincinnati. And the over is 8-1 in the Chiefs' last 9 road games. This is a mega matchup. Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow, 2 playoff teams from a year ago. Lope, how do you see Chiefs-Bengals playing out?
Well, that's the whole storyline. The Bengals, I think the Chiefs felt like they kind of let this one get away in the playoffs. I don't think there's when the schedule came out a day that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes circled starred more than this one. Um, the Chiefs right now, I think, are the best team in the NFL. Even on the road, I think -2 is good. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. This is one that's going to be kind of a revenge game. And as much as I'd like to say over, and both these quarterbacks are just going to show out, and there's going to be 30 points from each team.
Lope, we lost you. Where are you, buddy? You there?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'll swallow the points even though they're on the road, and I'm going to go lean towards the under. I think it's just the number's a little high, and sometimes in these big quarterback matchups, it seems to go in that direction.
Well, while you're swallowing points for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm drinking the Joe Burrow Kool-Aid. This guy didn't have training camp because he had the appendectomy. It took him a little while to find his regular season status or stability. He lost Jamar Chase to injury. That knocked him out a few weeks. But Joe Burrow is playing some of the best football of any quarterback we've seen this year. He is emerging as a star, and this is his game. The gambling note I gave a moment ago, the trend that really stood out to me, the Chiefs are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 meetings in Cincinnati. That goes back to before Joe Burrow. So clearly when Andy Reid and the Chiefs go to Cincinnati, they just don't play well. That's something to keep in mind. Now, Lope said it correctly. I think the Chiefs have had this game circled for more than a year. It doesn't matter. The Bengals right now are emerging. They are starting to find their stride. As for the Chiefs, I do think they may be the best team in the AFC by record. I don't know if they're actually the best team. They haven't played high-quality opponents the last few weeks, other than when they played the Titans. I actually think there's a lot of reason to believe games against the Jaguars and the Rams, that really doesn't impress me. When they played the Buffalo Bills, they lost. When they played good quarterbacks, they don't look nearly as unstoppable. I don't think this defense of the Chiefs is nearly as good as people think. And I think Patrick Mahomes has just made his teammates look good. But really, other than Travis Kelce, who are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of Juju Smith-Schuster? Are you afraid of Mecole Hardman, who's obviously still out with injury? I'm not afraid of Kadarius Toney. So I think the Chiefs are slightly overrated. Still think they're a great team. Could see them in an AFC championship game. But I think they're slightly overrated. Flip it on the other side. I think the Bengals are the team no one wants to play right now. Joe Burrow is getting hot. This team has experience from last year. Jamar Chase coming back. He's going to be healthy. I don't think anybody wants to play the Bengals right now, especially at home. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Cincinnati +4 after you buy a 1.5. I like Cincinnati to cover. Again, that's after you buy 1.5 points. Lope, is there any player in this game you like for a player prop or in fantasy?
I think Travis Kelce is definitely one. As you said, Mahomes is going to trust him in big spots in the majority of the game, so I think he'll get a lot of targets. Curious to see. Did I see that the Chiefs picked up Melvin Gordon? I don't think he'll be ready.
Yes, they did,
go.
but in like a practice squad situation.
Right. I was going to say, do you think he'll see any playing time, or what did you make of that?
No, I don't think he'll see much playing time. I think he offers a kind of power back for the Chiefs. I think it was more of an insurance policy to get an established running back that they can just throw onto the practice squad in case someone gets hurt. But I actually think the Chiefs have really shifted their run game towards Isaiah Pacheco. I think they like this young rookie. I think they like how he runs the football. So Melvin Gordon, whether he even sees the active roster, I don't put too much stock in him joining the team. I actually think this was more of a do right by a good player who has a good reputation in the league, who happens to come from a divisional opponent. But I actually don't think Melvin Gordon will make much of an impact on the Chiefs. Let's move to the Sunday night game for NFL Week 13. The 4-7-1 Indianapolis Colts play the 8-3 Dallas Cowboys. This game, of course, is on NBC. Where I see it, the Cowboys are a 9-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 43.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The favorite is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. And the home team, who is also 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two. The under is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the two, and the under is 8-1 in the Colts' last 9 road games. Colts failed to take their timeouts last night and ended up losing that Monday Night Football game late to the Steelers. As for the Cowboys, they continue to look good. An impressive Thanksgiving win over the New York Giants. Lope, what are your thoughts on this game between the Colts and Cowboys?
I think Jeff Saturday's finally starting to get exposed, as you mentioned, with the timeouts. I mean, he can come in and give a good rowdy speech, but as the season progresses, teams are starting to figure it out. The line is pretty high, though, as some of these higher spreads haven't hit, so I'll probably dance away from it. But I think the under is a strong play. I could see the Cowboys just running and then taking their foot off the pedal. I don't know how the Colts are going to move the ball that well against this Cowboys defense, so I don't expect them to score a whole lot of points. If you want to take the Cowboys money line and put it in some parlays, then there you go. Or tease it down and put it in a teaser. That might be more the route.
Lope, you took the words right out of my mouth. Dallas on the money line is one of my favorite plays for parlay fold-ins this week. I feel really confident Dallas is going to win. But that said, not crazy about that 9-point difference, especially with how we've seen Jeff Saturday's teams compete and fight. I know they lost last night, but given how they looked in the first half, they actually showed a lot of fight in the second half. So I'm not quite sure how this game is going to play out. I could see the Colts keeping it close. That really depends on how they run the ball. But ultimately, Dallas is going to win. They're just too good defensively, too many weapons on offense. One player prop I like in this game is Micah Parsons, obviously getting a sack. I also like Matt Ryan throwing another interception. I don't mean to say this as a joke, but I do mean to say it as something that's worth calling out. I'm really worried for Matt Ryan this week. This, to me, could be a Joe Theismann, Lawrence Taylor situation. If Micah Parsons comes off the edge and Matt Ryan, with his Bambi deer legs, doesn't see him, this dude could get hurt. Matt Ryan just looks unstable on his legs right now. I was listening earlier today to someone on the radio talk about Matt Ryan, and what they say is if you went and played catch with him at the park right now, he could still throw the ball hard. But his mechanics, especially from his waist down, is pathetically bad. He cannot throw on the move anymore. He can't throw off balance anymore. That is a nightmare against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to bring a rush. They're going to force Matt Ryan to either fall into a collapsing pocket and stand there until the quicksand finally takes him under, or they're going to force him to roll out or try to get out of the pocket. That's equally as dangerous. I'm worried for Matt Ryan's health in this game. Not going to lie. I think Micah Parsons could come off the edge, hit him at the wrong spot, and there goes Matt Ryan's NFL career. So for that reason alone, I'm really interested in some of the defensive player props for the Cowboys. I could see Diggs getting a pick. I could see Parsons getting a sack. I could see Matt Ryan throwing an interception in general. So you can just hear, I like the Cowboys in this game. Don't know about the spread. Don't know about the over-under, but Dallas on the money line, easy play for me. Fold it into some parlays. Definitely come back to us on Sunday. Again, Sunday morning on Twitter Spaces at Sports Fumble. We will definitely have more picks on this game for you when it comes to the spread and the total. But to this point, Tuesday, not a great time to get this game. Want to see how the public money comes down because I think the public's going to really like Dallas. So I could see that spread getting pushed even higher. I could see getting the Colts at, let's say, plus 11, plus 12.5. That's where I would want to take them. Right now at 9 or 10 points, not feeling as good about it. The final game of NFL Week 13 is the Monday Night Football game between the 4-8 New Orleans Saints and the 5-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game is on Sunday. This game is on ESPN. The Bucs are a 3.5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 40 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Saints are 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 Monday games. The Saints are also 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 meetings in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers are 1-5-1 against the spread in their last 7 home games, and the under is 11-3 in the last 14 meetings between the Saints and the Bucs. Lope, what are your thoughts on this NFC South battle on Monday Night Football?
The Buccaneers are one of the worst teams against the spread. They failed to cover the spread in 8 of their last 9 games. The Saints plus 3.5 with the hook seems pretty tempting, but there's just not a whole lot to believe in them. I can't believe that the Bucks lost to the Browns last week. That was one of my stronger plays, and it failed to hit. But at this rate, I think Tampa Bay on the money line is about all I'd be willing to touch. Potentially the under, but I'd have to buy it up a little.
You said exactly what was on my mind, Lope. The Buccaneers with one of, to me, the most disappointing losses of the season. Not only did you need that win to get above 500, not only is that a team you should have beaten in the Cleveland Browns, but the manner in which you lost. You had a lead late. Tom Brady doesn't lose those games. Never before has Tom Brady lost a lead of that size so late in a football game. Now, whether that's Tom Brady's stat or is that a Bill Belichick stat, that's for other people to decide. But Tom Brady is just not as good as he has been in years past. The Buccaneers are not as good as they have been in years past. And yet, unlike the Raiders, I'm going to forget what I just saw. I know I said earlier in the show, no matter what the Raiders do, I'm not betting on the Raiders. Well, the problem is this is Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I don't want to bet on them. I don't want to believe in them. But do I really think a Andy Dalton or a Jameis Winston or a Taysom Hill-led New Orleans Saints team is going to go on the road into Tampa Bay and beat Tom Brady? This isn't the same Saints defense as years past. If this was the same Saints defense, maybe I would feel differently, but I just can't believe in the Saints. So really, to me, this is which team do you have less confidence in? I have less confidence in the Saints, so I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. That's not a great reason for going with a bet, but I give you my reasoning nonetheless. So for the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one, as of right now, it is Tampa Bay on the money line. I am considering the Saints to cover +5. That's really basing it on the trends. I don't feel good about it. It's one of the reasons I'm only considering it right now. I'll wait until Sunday to see how the public pushes this money. I'm curious to see if the public is actually backing Tampa Bay or if they back the Saints given the trends. I think the public, much like me, is going to be divided. What do I believe? What I just saw or what I've seen over the last few years? It's going to be tough for the public to decide. So I'm going to wait on the spread until Sunday to make a bet. I am considering the under, though. The under, when it comes to the trends between these two teams, feels very strong. And again, given how these quarterbacks have played, Tom Brady and whoever the Saints throw out under center, I feel like the under is the better play in this one. Those are all our plays for NFL Week 13. Appreciate all of you for joining us over this last hour and 15 minutes. Went by incredibly fast. Lope, appreciate all your help, all your analysis, all your picks. Please follow Lope. A great ad to our show, J Lope Dog. That's JLOPEDAWG. Appreciate you, Lope. And for all of those out there, follow Butt Fumble Sports at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And the fun has just begun for all of those who will join us on YouTube and TikTok, as we are now going to go to a TikTok live. We've done our gambling for the night. Appreciate all of you joining us. And now we're going to switch over to TikTok live to do some fantasy gambling, some fantasy football conversation, answering your questions to get ready for the upcoming week. So join us over there at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Appreciate everyone joining us in this betting section of the show. Lope, appreciate you. And always, Blease, you are the absolute best. We couldn't do this without you. Blease, thank you so much. For everyone out there, appreciate it. Join us on Twitter at Sports Fumble. Join us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. And we look forward to a very successful week 13.
Hey, what's up?
What's
Randy?
going on? Yeah, you got the sign.
What's up, dog?
You know
How's
what
it
this
going?
means, right?
Yeah, love ya.
Hey.
some picks, give you how Butt Fumble Sports is seeing this one, whether it's gambling trends or standout stats. But we're also going to talk a lot of fantasy tonight. So put your fantasy questions in the comments section. Would love to answer them for you. Appreciate everyone that's going to join us. Butt Fumble Sports, we're a new sports content company. We want to give the fans what they need. We never believe fans should be made number two. So Butt Fumble Sports is here for you. Join us on Twitter, at Sports Fumble on Twitter, and join us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. I'm going to rattle through some of the games and bets that we're going to make this week on some of these NFL games. And again, we're going to answer a lot of fantasy questions tonight. So put your fantasy questions in the comments section. Who to start, who to sit, who to trade, whether you have a player prop bet, or if you want to ask a question about one of the games, one of the matchups that we see this week, would love to answer your questions. So put those comments down. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the tips. We appreciate all of you engaging with us. So at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Let's get to the NFL Week 13 slate of games, and I'm going to rattle through some of our picks. We just did a Twitter Space session where I went through all of my picks for the week, so I'm going to rattle them off quick. If you want to check out our analysis, go to our YouTube, check out how we broke down each game, gave you some great gambling trends. We will get to your questions in the comments section, so don't worry. We'll get to Devin Duvernay versus Jamal Williams. We'll get to a Dolphins pick. We got it all, but first, let's get to our gambling pick for NFL Week 13, the Thursday game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Where I see it, the Bills are a 5-point favorite. A stat that really stood out to me, Josh Allen has 7 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 2 games in New England. The Bills obviously won both of those games. I feel really good about Josh Allen in this one. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Buffalo to cover after you buy 1.5. That's Buffalo minus 3.5. Any report on Mike Williams and Etienne's injuries? Not yet. We haven't gotten injury reports from them. The teams don't have to release those until tomorrow. That'll be our first opportunity to hear how they bear with us on that. The next game, the 1 p.m. window game, the Broncos go up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one, we can't go with the Broncos anymore. They were just dreadful last week. So we're going Baltimore on the money line. Bengals money line over Chiefs, Burrow 2-0. We will get to that game, but you're already getting ahead of me. Feel really good about the Cincinnati Bengals this week, especially if Jamar Chase is back, which we expect. The next game I'm going to give you a pick for is the 4-7 Cleveland Browns against the 1-9-1 Houston Texans. Of course, this is the return of Deshaun Watson. Whatever you think of him off the field, he is spectacular when he's able to play. That said, I don't know what the chemistry is going to be with him and his wide receivers. He hasn't had too many reps with the first offense. So for that reason, I'm not feeling the spread right now, but Cleveland on the money line's an easy play, and I lean towards the under 48.5 after you buy 1.5. The next game I'm going to give you a pick for. Again, we're just racing through them so you can hear all of our picks, and then we're going to talk about fantasy. So put your fantasy questions in the comment section. I promise I'll get to all of them. The next game we're going to give a pick for is the 7-5 Washington Commanders against the 7-4 New York Giants. Washington is a 2.5-point favorite. Chase Young's supposed to return. He was supposed to return last week from an ACL tear last year, but he had an illness, didn't get to play. He is expected to play for this one. I like Washington on the money line. I am considering New York on a cover, but not right now. I want to see where the public money comes down between now and Sunday, but Washington on that said, I also like the under 42 in the Washington-New York game after you buy 1.5. Again, we're just rattling through some of our picks for NFL Week 13. We will get to all of your fantasy questions. Bear with us. Just put them in the comments section. We'll be there. Just want to give out some gambling picks for all of those that like to get in on the early Tuesday lines. A lot of opportunities for you. The Jacksonville Jaguars 4-7 play the 4-7 Detroit Lions. I'm really excited about this game. 2 teams that should be on the come up. Trevor Lawrence looked great last week. The Lions have been competing throughout the year. They're better than a lot of people thought. I'm really curious about the status of Travis Etienne. Someone in the the TikTok live mentioned it earlier. What's the status of Travis Etienne? We don't know just yet. JaMycal Hasty, the backup running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe someone you want to pick up off the waiver wire. He's owned in less than 1% of leagues on ESPN. If Travis Etienne isn't able to go, JaMycal Hasty may be someone you want to pick up. And if Travis Etienne can't go, on a daily fantasy lineup, Hasty may be a great play because I'm sure not a lot of other fantasy players are going to consider him. That said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for Jaguars and Lions is the Lions to cover -1 point. Feel good about the Lions at home. I do like the over 50 points after you buy 1.5 points. I still think Higgins could still be a top 10 wide receiver, even with Chase coming back. To answer that question from Mr. Burgers, I do think that T. Higgins has shown he's kind of a wide receiver 1A to Jamar Chase's wide receiver 1. So I still feel really good about T. Higgins, less so about Tyler Boyd, but I feel good about Higgins this week. Continuing our gambling bets, Kenneth Walker and Hollywood for Henry. Yeah, definitely take Henry in that one. Kenneth Walker, as good as a season as he's had. We've seen rookies kind of peter out in the last month of the year. Kind of reflects how the college football season's 12, 13 games. You get to the pros, you have that whole other month to play. I think Kenneth Walker is going to slow down. Marquise Hollywood Brown, I don't have a lot of faith in him, so I do feel good about that. Should I bench Pierce running back for White running back? I wouldn't this week. I'd keep Pierce. He's going up against a bad Browns run defense. So I think Pierce could have a decent day this week. White may be a good play in the weeks to come, but not crazy about it. Hey, do I think Bills is going to win? Yeah, I do think the Bills are going to win. I think they may even cover against the Patriots. Dak or Watson? I'd go with Dak for now. I haven't seen Watson play. Until I have some information to go off of, I don't know his chemistry with his wide receivers. I don't know how well he'll play in this system. Lamar Jackson or Tua. Even though Tua is going up against the 49ers defense, I like Tua over Lamar. Lamar's going up against is going up against the Denver Broncos. Broncos have a really good defense, and Lamar Jackson has no weapons. As for Tua, I know he's going up against a good 49ers defense, but he's got plenty of weapons. I'll go with Tua over Lamar Jackson. Debo or Slayton at wide receiver, not even a question. It's called Debo Samuel. Stick him in your lineup. Don't even worry about it. Set it and forget it. Devontae Smith or Donovan Peoples-Jones? Devontae Smith. This is a great week to play Devontae Smith. He's got a good matchup this week against a bad Tennessee Titans secondary. I think Devontae Smith could have a really big game. I like Devontae Smith, Mason Davis 019. Devontae Smith over Peoples-Jones. We've been handing out some gambling bets for you. The 4-7 Pittsburgh Steelers against the 5-7 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are a 1.5 point favorite. I like the Steelers to cover this. Maybe I have too much bias from last night's game, but I like what I'm seeing from Kenny Pickett. I like what I'm seeing from the Steelers offense. They're starting to make some strides. For those reasons and the fact that the Falcons really aren't that good a team, I like the Steelers to cover on the road in this one. So I'll buy the 1.5 and take Steelers +3. I'm also considering the over 40.5, given both of these defenses are just so bad. Christian Kirk or Watson at wide receiver. I like Christian Kirk this week. The Jaguars are playing the Lions. Lions have a terrible defense. I think Christian Kirk could have a good game. As for Christian Watson, Aaron Rodgers could have a good game against against the Bears, but I just can't trust it enough. I'd rather take Kirk. Appreciate that chicken leg. Appreciate the football. Appreciate the pizza. You're filling me up with all of these gifts right here. So thank you for the pizza, the chicken leg, and the rest. Appreciate it, man. Another game we're going to bet for you. One of the best games of the week. We just mentioned it a moment ago. The 7-4 Tennessee Titans against the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are a 5.5 point favorite in this one. I actually think this makes it a really good game to bet. I like Tennessee to cover +7. So buy the 1.5. When you get Tennessee by a touchdown, feel really good about that. They're coming off a loss, but I feel like Mike Vrabel is going to get his team focused. They need a bounce back performance. It may not be a win, but I think they'll be competitive in this game. So I like Tennessee to cover +7. I do like the Eagles on the money line, so you just got to balance those two things out. I actually think that works out in my favor. No matter what, one of those bets is going to cash. I feel good about both cashing, given I'm on both sides of the seesaw. Please, I appreciate that. That's right. Go out there and tip your fantasy football advisors and your gambling advisors. Fumble Sports, we're a startup sports media company putting out content every day. Check out our waiver wire watch pickups tonight, tomorrow. We're going to have start, flex, and sit videos that come out every day the remainder of the week. So definitely continue to follow us. Trade A.J. Brown from Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just can't do that. A.J. Brown has been one of the best wide receivers in the league and has stayed healthy. The reason I'm actually not going towards Amon-Ra St. Brown is his availability has just been limited enough where I can't rely on him. So I would keep A.J. Brown, depending on how the trade is. If you're saying you can get A.J. Brown, do it. But A.J. Brown's the player I'd rather have between the two. Looking at the 4 p.m. slate of games, the 8-3 Miami Dolphins against the 7-4 San Francisco 49ers. I mentioned this game a moment ago. Love this game from a two betting standpoint. Like Miami to cover the +5, like San Francisco on the money line. Great opportunity to get both. Who won this trade? Christian McCaffrey, Montgomery, and Fields for Tyreek, Pollard, and Daniel Jones. I hate to say it, but I think it's the one who got Tyreek, Pollard, and Daniel Jones. I don't think much of Daniel Jones, but the fact that Fields is now hurt, you probably got only his production for a week or two. Christian McCaffrey, as good as he's been, he's now mixed into an offense that has so many weapons. Can I rely on him? And again, Montgomery, his success is tied to Fields. So Tyreek Hill, arguably the best wide receiver in the entire season. Tony Pollard continues to come on. Daniel Jones is just a throw-in to make it 3 players for 3 players, but I like Hill, Pollard, and Jones more. Start Treylon Burks or Mike Evans? Tough question. I don't think it's going to be that hard, though. Mike Evans, he had a bad game last week. I think he performs better this week. He disappointed me. We went 7 for 10 in week 12 in our player prop bets. One of the 3 we missed. I had Mike Evans getting over 4.5 receptions. He only got 2. Just a terrible performance. I expect he has a better game at home. I know they're going up against the Saints, But Burks and that Titans defense, they're going up against a really good Eagles defense, or Titans offense going up against a good Eagles defense. So for that reason, I lean towards Mike Evans. The best defense for week 13, I would have to go through it and comb it through a bit more. But that said, I lean a little bit. Let me put it this way. One of the defenses that I'm recommending that fantasy owners consider for this week off the waiver wire is the Seattle Seahawks. I know the Seahawks had -3 fantasy points last week on defense after they got torched by Josh Jacobs and the Raiders, but they're playing against the Rams this week. Who knows who's starting at quarterback for the Rams? I think that's a good opportunity to get a defense off the waiver wire that's owned by less than 12% of leagues, according to ESPN. Would I start Dameon Pierce? I would start him this week against the Browns. I think he will be the focal point of the offense. I don't think he's going to have a massive day, but especially since he's a good slot in for an RB2, I would start Dameon Pierce. I do think Elijah Mitchell being hurt will give Christian McCaffrey more carries, but that said, when he's in the backfield as a runner, I actually think that kind of the defenses are going to focus on him. I like him when he's the third down back. I think he could get a ton of fantasy points when it comes to screen plays and some of those actions. So Elijah Mitchell being out will help Christian McCaffrey's production, but not nearly as much as in most other offenses where the loss of a running back means that the other running back's going to get a ton of attention. They could throw in Deebo Samuel and he could get some of those carries as well. How do I feel about Christian Watson? I would start him this week because the Packers are playing the Bears. The Bears have been owned by Aaron Rodgers historically. So I do like Christian Watson in this game. I do think he's a player you want to, if not a wide receiver too, I do like him in a flex play. Zay Jones or Van Jefferson, that's an easy one for me, Bernie. Zay Jones every freaking time. Van Jefferson's playing on an offense that doesn't have a quarterback that I can rely on. Meanwhile, Zay Jones, big performance last week, going up against an awful Lions defense this week. Love Zay Jones. That's an easy one. Deshaun Watson, are we starting him this week? Well, I mentioned at the beginning of this TikTok live, I'm not going to start Deshaun Watson, and I'm not really betting on the Browns to cover the spread. I need to see a week of his play on the field. Given that he hasn't had a lot of time with the first offense, we don't know the chemistry he has with Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku. I want to see at least 1 week of play on the field to get a better sense of what he is. So if you don't have another option at quarterback in fantasy, fine, put Deshaun Watson in. But if there's someone else you feel good about, like a Trevor Lawrence, like a Jared Goff, both those guys are probably available on the waiver wire. You may want to start them for a week just to see what Watson's got, and then you can go to him for the remainder of the year. Dalvin Cook or Christian Kirk at the flex position. I like Christian Kirk this week. Again, I'm believing in the Jaguars offense this week, and Dalvin Cook is going up against a good defense of the New York Jets. They're good in the trenches. They take away the pass. I think it's going to be tough. I say they take away the pass, which just tells me that as much as the Vikings should run the ball, is Kevin O'Connell going to be disciplined enough to say, hey, I need to feed Dalvin Cook, or is he going to continue to test Sauce Gardner in the secondary of the Jets? I think the Vikings have kind of a disappointing performance offensively in this one, so I lean towards Christian Kirk at the flex play. Zay Jones or Deebo? Wow, that's a tough one. On brand name, it's easy. It's Deebo. But on production, you may actually want to consider Zay Jones, only again in that there's so many mouths to feed in San Francisco. Unless Deebo gets a touchdown, is he going to have the same quality of production or the same fantasy points as Zay Jones? I feel more confident that the Jaguars need Zay Jones to have a big day to win, where Deebo, he can kind of fall into the mix, and the 49ers can still win. So as crazy as this sounds, I'm going with Zay Jones over Deebo Samuel. That more has to do with the trends and who the opponent is, as opposed to the brand name. If this were a brand name contest, Deebo every time, but I prefer Zay Jones. Pollard or Ramondre Stevenson. To me, that's not even close because Ramondre Stevenson's going up against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are going to be good. They're going to be good on the road. I think it's going to be tough for Ramondre Stevenson. No Damian Harris in this game, so all of the running responsibility is really going to fall on Ramondre Stevenson. I think if Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills, he's told his team there's one focus, something on the offensive side of the ball that they want to take away from the Patriots, take away Stevenson. If Stevenson can't get production, is Mac Jones really going to beat the Buffalo Bills? I have a hard time believing it. So for this one, I like Tony Pollard. If I'm picking between the two, Tony Pollard, he's going up against a Colts defense that did not look good last night. I know they at times had their moments, but I like Tony Pollard over Ramondre Stevenson this week. My thoughts on Christian McCaffrey going forward, I think he's a stud running back. I think he'll have good production. I think it's more about week over week. How do we feel about the matchup that he's in? Is he going to get enough touches? Is he going to get enough opportunities as a receiver? For this week, I'm kind of on the fence, but I do think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a solid play week over week. You have Dak and Watson, but I could use a potential boom this week. Texans are... the Texans on defense aren't as bad as you think they are. I know last week's game you go, oh, they got blown out. But actually, their offense kind of contributed to the points scored by the Dolphins. If you look towards stats, the Texans defense, they're terrible against the run, period. Texans are the worst defense against the run in the NFL. Against the pass, they're not as bad as you think they are. So again, I need evidence before I can go to Deshaun Watson. I need to see him on the Browns with that first team unit before I can put confidence in him. Meanwhile, Dak, the past 2 weeks, he's been impressive. So Dak is the play for this week. I know what you're saying about the Texans, but I'd rather have Dak against the Colts than Deshaun Watson with no evidence, no understanding of who he is. I'll wait the extra week before I put Watson into a lineup. Yeah, we mentioned this earlier. Mitchell out. I think CMC will see more production. But again, I don't think Kyle Shanahan goes, oh, no Elijah Mitchell. Put all of those carries back onto Christian McCaffrey's back. I think Christian McCaffrey will be used sparingly, in part because I think Kyle Shanahan wants to, one, keep his offense balanced, and two, I don't think he wants to run the risk of injury down the stretch. So I do think he will have, I don't want to say a snap count, or a carry count on Christian McCaffrey, but I think he's going to manage how much Christian McCaffrey plays, how much physical play he has to endure. I think he's going to manage that closely. Kamara, Debo, or Zeke, pick two. Well, that's easy for me because I'm just going to go with the player I like the least in that group. Alvin Kamara, one of the most disappointing players this year. I think he only has one rushing game of over 100 yards. I believe he only has one rushing touchdown. He has been an absolute bust this year for fantasy owners. So I would take Debo and Zeke more as a function of Kamara has been disappointing, and he's playing a Bucs defense that is good against the run. Dalvin Cook or Saquon Barkley. I'm going to lean towards Saquon Barkley. I know the Washington Commanders are getting better against the run. And now that they have Chase Young back, I also think that will contribute. But that said, if the Giants are going to do anything on offense, it's going to run through Saquon Barkley. I feel good about that. Where on the other side, I feel like Dalvin Cook going up against the Jets defense, not a good matchup for him. So I lean towards Saquon Barkley. I worry a little bit about Josh Allen as well at quarterback, only because of his health. Josh Allen is such a spectacular player, but I feel like he runs a few more times than I'd like, especially because Josh Allen doesn't slide. Josh Allen doesn't step out of bounds. Josh Allen delivers hits. Sooner or later, one of those hits will hurt him. I'm worried it's going to come right as the Bills are in their playoff run or right before. So I do have a few concerns about Josh Allen. Not his play, not his talent, but the risks he takes when he makes those runs. Eckler and Olave for CeeDee Lamb and A.J. Brown. Where do I sign up? If you have a running back to replace Eckler, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, I think they're going to have a big month of December. I like that trade. Should I trade Patterson? I just missed. Where's your comment? Where's your question? Should I trade Patterson and Lamb for Kenneth Walker and Sutton? I'm desperate for running backs, so stacked at wide receiver. I'm not crazy about it. I mentioned this earlier. I don't like rookie running backs in December. They come off that college football schedule. They play 12, 13 games in a college football schedule. They graduate to the NFL, and I always feel like those final few weeks of the season, they are gassed. They're feeling the effects of a long year. So if there's another running back that you could target, I would prefer you go after them. I really like Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to be good for years, but I'm not crazy about him. I do like Cordell Patterson more maybe than I like Walker, but not by much. But Lamb and Sutton, I'd rather have Lamb. What up, Zach? Eagles, man, are they impressive. How about the Dolphins? I think the Dolphins may be one of the best teams in the AFC. My concern is, can they keep Tua healthy? If Tua's healthy, I could see this team in an AFC championship game. If Tua's not healthy, I could see them getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. They have a major matchup this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers on the road. I like the 49ers on the money line, but I think the Dolphins will cover that game. So by the 1.5, take the Dolphins +5, take San Francisco on the money line, but I think that's going to be a showdown of two of the best teams in the NFL. Can't wait to see it. Jacoby Myers or Cordell Patterson this week, PPR. I lean towards Cordell Patterson. Jacoby Myers going up against the Bills defense, I don't think that's a favorable matchup for them. He might get targeted a lot because of the fact that Mac Jones has a great connection with Jacoby Myers, but I am not crazy about that one, so I lean towards Patterson. Rodgers or Danny Dimes, for me, that's a no-brainer, only because Rodgers is playing the Bears. If Rodgers was playing any other opposing team in the NFL, I might say Danny Dimes, but Daniel Jones has not played well the last few weeks, and Aaron Rodgers is playing against a team that he owns. I'm pretty sure the Bears have a picture of Aaron Rodgers on their rear end because he owns them. I'm going to feel good about Rodgers this week because of that matchup. Where do I see the Cowboys going? I think the Cowboys could be an NFC Championship contender. To me, it's all about health, and it's the play of Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott plays well in the playoffs, they could easily make a Super Bowl run. But this team, as much as I want them to be about their running backs first, Pollard and Zeke, it's just not the case. They put way too much of the game in Dak Prescott's hands, so it's going to come down to whether Dak can deliver a win for the Cowboys in the playoffs or not. But this defense is really good, but we say it year after year. What are the Cowboys come playoff time? It really, to me, depends on the play of their quarterback, so I'm going to wait to see what Dak delivers. Rachaad White, Ayuk, or Latavius Murray for a flex play. I take Brandon Ayuk this week. I like that matchup. I don't like Latavius Murray. I am fading everything about the Denver Broncos right now. Murray's going up against a Baltimore Ravens defense that's pretty good against the run. As for Rachaad White, he's a good play, but I actually like Brandon Ayuk more in that flex. How far are the Bills going to go? To me, the Bills are the best team in the AFC when they're healthy and complete. I see them in the AFC Championship game. If they play the Bengals or the Chiefs, ugly, I could see them losing that one. But if they were to play like, say, a Miami Dolphins, I could see them in the Super Bowl. Should you start Tua or Brady? Unfortunately, for those Brady lovers out there, that's Tua. I know Tua's going up against arguably the best defense in the NFL in the 49ers, but Tua has been spectacular this year. He's got the better weapons. Tom Brady couldn't beat a bad Browns team on the road. I have no faith in Brady. Brady's also going up against the Saints defense that's kind of had his number this year, so for that reason, I like Tua. Chargers or Raiders, the pick that I have for this one, the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game, is the Chargers on the money line. I am considering the cover as well, but the play I really like is over 49.5 points after I buy it down. That said, I just can't trust the Raiders. I know they won last week in a big win on the road, but that said, the Raiders to me are kryptonite. I'm just avoiding them, and especially because the Chargers are getting healthier. You saw Justin Herbert get a big win last week. He's starting to make progress as a young quarterback, and from a health status, man, Keenan Allen when he's back, Mike Williams when he's back. I know Keenan Allen was back last week, but when they have their full complement of weapons, the Chargers are really talented on the offensive side of the ball, so I like the Chargers in that one. Gus Bus or P. Ryan, I'd probably go towards P. Ryan. The Chiefs are not a very good defense against the run, where the Broncos are a really good defense against the run. That said, I'm not crazy about either one because I think that Chiefs-Bengals game is going to be about the passing game more than the running game. PPR, Cordell Patterson versus Gus Edwards. I just said a moment ago, Gus Edwards going up against the Broncos defense. Don't feel good about that. I'd rather have Cordell Patterson going up against the Steelers. I know the Steelers are pretty good against the run, but I'd rather take Cordell Patterson, especially because you will get some of those special teams points. You never know if Patterson delivers on that side of the ball. Glad I could help you with your pick on Tua. The Bucs did beat the Saints in New Orleans this year, I understand, and that's really a function of the Saints have no quarterback. But do I trust that Tom Brady is going to put up big numbers against the Saints defense on Monday night? I don't. That's one of the reasons I went with Tua. Debo, Allen, or Godwin, start two. Well, I'm starting Keenan Allen. That's a no-brainer for me. And I'll start Debo. So I'll take Debo Samuel, and I'll take Keenan Allen, and I will sit Chris Godwin in this one. Cousins or Fields, man, I don't like that. Fields, I don't know if he's going to be healthy. That's my question. If he's healthy, I feel good about it, but that status is up in the air. As for Cousins, he's going up against a really good Jets defense. Maybe my favorite one-on-one matchup of NFL Week 13 is going to be Justin Jefferson up against Sauce Gardner. That is a prime time matchup. That's going to be so much fun to watch. I think Cousins is going to struggle in this game against the Jets. So I'm not crazy about either one of those starting options. I do lean Cousins just because he's available because of health, but I'm not crazy about either one of those quarterbacks. Garrett Wilson or Amari Cooper. Oof. Garrett Wilson looked really good with Mike White last week. I'd go with Wilson only because I mentioned this earlier. When it comes to the Browns offense, I'm just taking a week off. I'm taking a sabbatical from them. I want to see 1 week where I see Deshaun Watson on the field with the first offense. Until I see that, I'm projecting. I'm making expectations without any evidence. The evidence I do have, when Mike White is throwing, when anyone other than Zach Wilson is throwing the ball, Garrett Wilson has played well. When it was Joe Flacco, he played well. When it's Mike White, he's played well. So I like Garrett Wilson more than I like Amari Cooper. It's not that I don't think Amari Cooper is going to play well with Deshaun Watson. He may this week. I think he certainly will over the coming few weeks. But I'm going to avoid it this week just because I want to see one game with Deshaun Watson before I bet on him or before I put him in fantasy. Thoughts on this trade? You gave Kittle, Olave. Oh, it just jumped in the comment section. Forgive me. You gave Kittle, Olave, and Jamal Williams, and you got Chris Godwin and Devontae Adams. Ooh, didn't work out for you too much. Devontae Adams has come on stronger. That said, you kind of got two good wide receivers who are both not having as good a year as maybe some of us fantasy owners expected. Meanwhile, Jamal Williams, what a breakout year he's had. So from a running back standpoint, you did get the worst of that. That said, from wide receivers, Devontae Adams and Godwin are an upgrade from Olave. Olave's been a great rookie this year, but he just doesn't have a quarterback. If he had a consistent quarterback, I feel even better about him. But I do like Jamal Williams. I think he was probably, funny enough, he's probably the best player in this deal. And who would have thought that a deal that had Kittle, Adams, Godwin, and Jamal Williams is the player we're talking about? Says a lot about how well Williams has played this year. Sky Moore has kind of been a disappointment for me. I expected a lot more out of him. I thought the Chiefs were going to put him into the offense and he was just going to click. Hasn't really happened. I know because the injuries at wide receiver, he's getting a bit more time on the field. But I'm not crazy about Sky Moore. I think he's really talented. I just haven't seen the explosiveness, the production that I expected. He was one of the rookies that I had my eye on at the beginning of the year. Just never came through. Christian Watson or Lockett. I do lean towards Lockett only because I feel better about Geno Smith. I know he played poorly last week, but I feel slightly better about that. That said, I think Christian Watson's going to have a good game. I don't think you can really go wrong with either one of those players. I think they're going to have similar days. I do lean towards Lockett, though. Tua or Cousins, that's an easy one this week. I know Tua's going up against the 49ers, but Tua's offense is better. Cousins is going up against a tough Jets defense. I know it's Cousins and a 1 p.m. home game. That should be an automatic Cousins win. I think the Vikings will win, but I like Tua over Cousins. Wilson over Godwin. If that's Garrett Wilson versus Godwin, I like Garrett Wilson for the reasons I just mentioned. I think that his chemistry with Mike White is more reason to believe right now. I like Godwin, but Tom Brady and this Bucs offense is just disappointing me. And it starts with the offensive line. Now they lose one of their best offensive linemen, maybe one of the best players on their entire team in Tristan Wirfs. I think that's going to really hurt the Bucs offense. So for that reason alone, I'm kind of fading their wide receivers. I'm kind of fading some of their offensive players. I like Garrett Wilson in this one. Appreciate everyone who's joining us right now on this TikTok Live. Follow us on Twitter at SportsFumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. ButtFumble Sports, we're a new sports content company. We put out content every day. Fantasy, gambling, rants, everything a sports fan would need. And we believe you could be on-air talent too. We believe every fan can be on-air talent. We want to give you the coaching, production, and distribution resources. So if because of life, because of responsibilities, kids, wives, the like, you couldn't go into sports media like you wanted to, we can help you get there. We can help you put together content, be an on-air talent of your own, and maybe live out that dream of getting onto Fox Sports or onto ESPN. So reach out to us, DM us. We want to hear from you, the fan. We want to give you the opportunity to be on-air talent. So reach out to us at SportsFumble on Twitter, at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Going to continue to answer some questions here in the space. Thoughts on this trade that someone sent me? Pollard and Paris for Kirk and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like that trade only because I like Pollard. When you get the best player in a trade, I usually like it, especially at an important position. I like Pollard. That's a good deal for me. Latavius Olave or Devin Singletary. Olave is the player I like the most in that group. As I mentioned earlier, Latavius Murray of the Broncos, I'm selling that. I want nothing to do with the Broncos offense, and they're going up against a good defense. When it comes to the run, a good defense for the Ravens. And Singletary going up against one of the best run defenses in the New England Patriots. Olave is the player out of that group that I like the most. Should I trade Knox, the Bills tight end? Yeah, man, Dawson Knox, I feel bad for him. His brother died at the beginning of the year. Clearly, he's been dealing with a lot of emotional baggage. And from a production standpoint, he's just never really gotten going. He had such a good year last year. He's just not quite the same player this year. I don't know if that's because the Bills' offense is so dynamic. They have so many weapons. I don't know if that's taken away from him. But I might move on from Dawson Knox. I actually think there are players on the waiver wire that are better plays week over week than Dawson Knox. Is Tua going to retire after this week? Well, I know that's like part joke, but Tua Tagovailoa seriously is one hit away from being retired. Tua Tagovailoa is one of those players where he is one hit away from his NFL career ending immediately. And as sad and scary as that is, I know it's part joke, but Tua really is in the gun sights every single week. Should I start Josh Jacobs or will he not play? So this is what I've heard so far about his calf injury. He will be limited in practice or not practice during the week, but they do expect him to play on Sunday. Be very careful where you put him. If you're playing him in a DFS, be very mindful of that. But in your annual fantasy league, your year-long fantasy league, just keep an open status to that. Have a backup ready. But I would have Josh Jacobs in your starting lineup. I could see him having a very big week. Right now in fantasy on ESPN, he's projected to get over 20 points this week, playing a terrible Chargers defense against the run. So if Josh Jacobs is healthy, you have to play him. So I do think he will play in this game. Just monitor his status throughout the week. Trade Kirk for Godwin. I mean, if you can, I do feel like Godwin is a better player than Kirk. That said, I think Kirk is probably the better player to have this week than Godwin. What do I think of Juju Smith-Schuster? I like what I've seen from him the last, the concussion really set him back. He was just starting to play well with Patrick Mahomes. I do think he's their number one wide receiver right now, but with Juju, it's just kind of hot and cold week to week. I think I like him in December, but week over week, what's his health? Is he going to be on the field? Is he going to be healthy? That's how I feel about Juju. Is Curtis Samuel out there on the waiver wire? But I do think Curtis Samuel is not going to have a good week this week. I am sitting him. So in one of our start, flex, and sit videos that'll come out later this week, Curtis Samuel is one of my wide receivers that I am sitting. So I do think he's droppable. It's just about who you're picking up in his place. Kyron Williams or Jamal Williams, that's a no-brainer. It's Jamal Williams. He's one of the best running backs this year, especially in the red zone. Sorry, just going through some of these questions, trying to get to all of them. Should I trade David Montgomery or Jonathan Taylor? I trade David Montgomery only because I think the Bears are kind of on their dissension with no Justin Fields. Opposing defenses are just going to load the box, try to stop the run. As for Jonathan Taylor, I still think the Colts somehow are going to try to be competitive. And Jeff Saturday, though he didn't do it last night, we thought he was just going to run the ball consistently, so I'd keep Jonathan Taylor. Brady or Deshaun, yeah, FML, I totally agree with that. I mentioned it earlier. I'm kind of fading Deshaun Watson this week. I want to get evidence before I do anything. That said, this may be one of the few times I do pick Deshaun Watson over a quarterback. I think Tom Brady's going to have kind of an average week. His offensive line's banged up. He's going up against a defense that's played well against him the last few years. So you finally found one. I like Deshaun Watson over Brady. Conklin or Kmet. Love tight end start or sit plays. Tyler Conklin, I like him this week. Mike White being in there just changes the Jets offense much better in the passing game. I think Conklin has a good game. As for Cole Kmet, is Justin Fields playing? If he's not playing, he's an automatic sit for me. If Justin Fields is playing, I'd consider it, but I'd still lean Conklin. trade Kittle, Kirk, and Pierce for Godwin and Andrews. I'm assuming that's Mark Andrews. I wouldn't do it. I think Kittle is just as good at times. I think Andrews is just getting too much coverage because there isn't another wide receiver for Lamar Jackson to target consistently. So I like Kittle, Kirk, and Pierce more than I like Godwin and Andrews. Should I trade Olave or Sutton? Man, hate that on both cases. I will say Sutton has been the only player on the Broncos offense that I feel you can have any trust in. Consistently week over week, he's the number one target for Russell Wilson. So he does put up pretty consistent stats. I like Olave, but again, who's the quarterback in New Orleans? Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill. So I lean towards starting Courtland Sutton, but I'm not really crazy about either one, but I lean towards Courtland Sutton. Michael Pittman, Montgomery, Mike Evans, pick two. Well, Montgomery I'm going to play this week. The Packers aren't good against the run. I'll start Montgomery. As for Michael Pittman, the Colts play the Dallas Cowboys. I would expect Pittman to go up against Trayvon Diggs. That's not a good matchup for him. So by that sheer elimination of Michael Pittman, the two players I would pick are Montgomery and Mike Evans. Smith or evidence, unless it's the perfect comparison. So I'll take Geno on that one. Just Christian McCaffrey's status, I think he's going to play. I'm not too concerned about it. Etienne or Pacheco, this is one you've got to wait to see what Etienne's status is. I'm not crazy about Pacheco this week. The Bengals are an average team against the run. They're not great. They're not bad. So I think it's going to be more of a passing game. The Chiefs are going to have to stay in this because the Bengals are absolutely going to put up points. So for that reason, I lean towards Etienne. If Etienne's healthy, the Jaguars are playing a terrible Lions defense. Etienne could have a big week. It really is about the health status of Etienne. So if Etienne is healthy, it's definitely Etienne for me. We talked about the Christian McCaffrey injury. I'm going to wait to see how that comes out. I haven't heard anything yet. Haven't gotten injury reports yet. Etienne, DK Metcalf, or Godwin, sit one. Well, if I had to sit one right now, it's Etienne because he's the only one that is questionable with his health. But again, if Etienne plays, I like him, and I like DK Metcalf, and I would sit Godwin. Thoughts on Tyler Higbee? I like Tyler Higbee when Matthew Stafford is the quarterback. When Tyler Higbee has a third-string quarterback throwing to him, he's not going to be a good tight end to play in fantasy. I like him as a player. I think he's a talented receiver. That said, he needs a good quarterback to play well. Not crazy about him. Answer that Christian McCaffrey question. Answer that question. Patterson or Sutton. I'll go with Sutton at the flex. Samaje Perine, not crazy about him with Joe Mixon coming back off of injury. Should I accept a trade T. Higgins and McCaffrey for Devontae Adams and Miles Sanders? No, you shouldn't. Miles Sanders is the best running back in that one. I would not make that deal. Cut one. Jeff Wilson, Latavius Murray, or Gus Edwards. I'd probably move on from Latavius Murray. The Broncos' offense is bad. I don't see their running game doing anything to save them. Jeff Wilson Jr. I really like. Not this week, but I do like him in that Dolphins offense. And Gus Edwards, I think the Ravens, 1 week they'll be good on the ground, 1 week they won't, but I like him more than Latavius Murray. Patterson or Sutton at the flex, as I just mentioned a moment ago, I like Sutton at the flex. Flex Pittman, Rashad White, or Michael Carter. Oof, tough one here. I lean towards Michael Carter, actually. Rashad White, I'm not crazy about. Again, Saints defense against the Bucs offense, not as crazy about it. And as I mentioned a moment ago, Pittman will go up against Diggs of the Cowboys. Tough one-on-one matchup for him. I lean towards Michael Carter. Should I trade Christian McCaffrey for Travis Kelce? I still have Etienne, Henry, and Foreman. Absolutely. Kelce's the best player at his position. If you can get him for Christian McCaffrey, absolutely worth it. I think he's going to still have a big December despite all of his production. Garrett Wilson or DeAndre Swift? I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson looked really good with Mike White. DeAndre Swift has become RB number 2 on the Detroit Lions. So would I rather have wide receiver 1 on the Jets or running back 2 on the Detroit Lions? I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. I do think DeAndre Swift's going to have a good week this week. So if you can find a way to play both, I would. But I lean towards Garrett Wilson. Russell Wilson or John Elway? Well, one of those guys is a tool and one of those guys is John Elway. So I'll go with John Elway. Start only 2, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, or Chris Olave. Well, as I mentioned, I don't like the Broncos offense. The only thing I like about the Broncos offense is Cortland Sutton. So I guess you're kind of forcing me into it. I'll go with Mike Evans and Olave just because I don't want to give you the advice of going with a Broncos receiver. But I think Cortland Sutton's actually been pretty consistent week over week. That's a tough one for me. I really don't like the quarterback of the Saints. It's tough. I like Mike Evans in a bounce-back game. It's tough. I could go Olave. I could go Sutton. I'll go Olave. How is Tyreek Hill the Miami wide receiver? Because he's killing it. He's amazing. I'm not even going to answer that question. That's just clearly anti-Semitic. Amari Cooper or Mike Evans? I like Amari Cooper this week. I know I've talked a lot about Deshaun Watson and whether we can trust him this week, but I prefer that over Mike Evans. Should I trade Cook for Latavius Murray and DeAndre Swift? I already have Stevenson, JJ, and Jamar. No, because really you're just trading Dalvin Cook for DeAndre Swift. I don't think that's an upgrade. You can hear I'm really fading Latavius Murray right now. Kelsey and Godwin for Barkley, Chase, and Schultz. I do like that deal. Barkley, I still think you're going to get good production from him in the final weeks of the season. Jamar Chase, I think, is going to have a monster December. And Schultz, I think, could put up good points. So even though Travis Kelsey is the best player, I think, in that deal, Jamar Chase is a close second. So I do like that trade for you. Pacheco or Rachaad White. I lean towards Pacheco, but I feel like both those players will put up pretty similar points. I think it could go either way. Did I get a steal? I got Josh Jacobs, Dalton Schultz, DK, and the Ravens defense for Pierce, Rob Woods, and Tanyan. Oh my God, did you get a steal? That is an absolute shellacking. You robbed that opposing fantasy owner. Good on you, McCade Zink. That is a great trade. Well done. Joshua Palmer or Cortland Sutton? Joshua Palmer. I'm big on Joshua Palmer. I really like the Chargers offense. I think Keenan Allen and Mike Williams coming back means he's going to be targeted less. But when he's targeted, he's going to be wide open. He's going to have one-on-one coverage. I like Joshua Palmer. I know Sutton is very consistent. Palmer might be the bigger risk, but I like Palmer. Should I drop Dulcich? Yes, you should. Dulcich kind of had his moment, but that offense has really struggled. I'm not about him anymore. Yeah, especially you have Hayden Hurst. I like Hayden Hurst. Okay, I need to. Tyler Boyd, Thielen, Cortland Sutton, Deontay Foreman, Damian Pierce, Trey Burks. Okay, a lot going on here. Let's break it down one by one. Tyler Boyd, with Jamar Chase coming back, I don't like as much as I did the last couple of weeks. Adam Thielen, I don't like at all. He's going up against a really good Jets defense. I'm fading Adam Thielen. I think he's a sit. Cortland Sutton, I think is kind of a flex play. I think he's going to put up consistent numbers. It's not going to be spectacular. It's not going to be a bust. It's going to be very average. Deontay Foreman, the Panthers. Where are the Panthers playing? The Panthers. I got to remind myself who the Panthers are playing right now. I'm blanking on who they're playing. Someone wants to shout out who they're playing this week. Yeah. I don't remember who the Panthers are playing. Should I trade Karma and Lockett for Chubb? Who's Karma? Kareem Hunt? Who's Karma? Tell me who Karma is and I'll give you an answer. Mention that Kelsey Godwin trade like that. Okay, flex. Jeff Wilson, Mostert, or Jerry Jeudy. Ugh, yuck. Okay, not crazy about Jeff Wilson Jr. or Mostert this week going up against the number one rush defense in the San Francisco 49ers. But I don't like Jerry Jeudy. He's coming off an injury. It makes me have to trust Russell Wilson for a day. Don't want to do that. If I had to pick one player out of that group, I'm going with Jeff Wilson, though I don't think he's going to have a good day. Will Hill play this weekend? I do expect Tyreek Hill to play. Obviously, we've got to wait towards the injury report. Pacheco or Murray? I already mentioned Pacheco. I'm fading Latavius Murray hard. Pacheco or Rachaad White? Mentioned that earlier. Leaning towards Pacheco. Start Godwin, Rachaad White, or Jeff Wilson Jr. at flex. I'm going to lean towards Godwin. I really don't like Jeff Wilson Jr. this week against the 49ers. Already mentioned you got a steal in that trade. Scary Terry or Amari Cooper or Mike Evans or Christian Watson. Choose one. Okay, for this one, I like Amari Cooper or Christian Watson. Not as crazy about Mike Evans. Scary Terry, as good as he's played with Taylor Heineke, they're going up against the Giants defense that's better against the pass than people think, at least statistically. So I lean towards Cooper or Watson. I'll probably go with Amari Cooper on that one. CeeDee Lamb and Stevenson for Eckler and Jacoby Myers. Don't make that deal. Keep Stevenson and keep CeeDee Lamb. I'd much rather have them. Drake London or Brandon Cooks for the flex. I have no faith in Brandon Cooks week over week ever since he pulled that temper tantrum around the trade deadline. I'll go with Drake London, even though he's kind of disappeared. I go with Drake London in that one. Yeah, Watson's tearing it up. I think he could have a good day against the Bears as Aaron Rodgers has owned them historically. Okay, start Burks, Kirk at the flex. I like Christian Kirk this week. He's going up against the bad Lions defense. Pittman or Lockett. I like Lockett. Pittman going up against a good cornerback in the Cowboys. Don't like that one. Watson or Amari Cooper. I mentioned this a moment ago. I'm kind of on the fence. I lean towards Amari Cooper. I think Watson's going to have a good game. I think both players are going to put up good points, but I'll lean towards Amari Cooper. Okay, who do I put my money on this week? Niners or Fins? So I'm on both sides of this one. I got the 49ers on the money line. I like the Fins covering. I'm going to buy the 1.5. It's right now going off at 3.5. So I'm getting San Francisco on the money line, Miami at +5. I feel like that's a great play. I think both of those tickets could cash. Thoughts on Saquon Barkley? He has me a little bit worried too, but I really think it's more about the play of Daniel Jones has gone down. That's negatively impacted Saquon Barkley. I still think Saquon is going to have a good December. The offensive line for the Giants is getting a little banged up, but I do think Saquon is going to have a strong end of the year. Not as good as early on, but he'll still be a reliable fantasy play. Which two should I put my flex? Jonathan Taylor, Sutton, Pollard, Montgomery. Well, Tony Pollard automatically, and probably David Montgomery is going up against a bad Packers run game. I have Kyler, Cook, Stevenson, JJ, Jamar, Everett, DPJ in a 12-team deadline tomorrow. Should I do anything? I don't think so. It's a pretty good lineup. Murray or Swift? I'm going Swift. Hurst or Commit? I'm going Hurst, especially because I don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Bears. Appreciate all of you joining us on this TikTok Live, Butt Fumble Sports. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Okay, start two: Amari Cooper, Miles Sanders, Deebo Samuel. Okay, I'm going to sit Miles Sanders this week despite how good he played last week. The Titans defense, one of the best run defenses in the league, so I'm going to go with Cooper and Deebo. Gerald Everett or Cole Kmet. I'm going Gerald Everett. I think he's going to have a really big day. Expect a lot from him. Raiders are terrible against tight ends in fantasy, like Gerald Everett. Miles Sanders or Cordero Patterson. I'm not crazy about either one. For this, I would probably lean towards Sanders just a touch because I'm not as crazy about Patterson as some of the other options. Do I trade D-Hop for Amon-Ra St. Brown? The answer is no. As good as Amon-Ra St. Brown has been, he's been hurt. He's not as reliable from a health standpoint. DeAndre Hopkins, he is just automatic. The dude is going to get plenty of targets with Kyler Murray. Ever since he came back from suspension, he's put up good numbers week over week. He's just someone you set, forget, trust. I like DeAndre Hopkins. Do I trade away Saquon Barkley for Nick Chubb? Sure. If someone's willing to make that deal, you absolutely do it. Chubb, with Deshaun Watson coming back, is going to face fewer defensive fronts of 7-8 guys in the box. So I like Chubb the rest of the year more than I like Saquon. Jonathan Taylor or Aaron Jones for this week. Aaron Jones going up against a really bad Bears defense. Jonathan Taylor going up against a much better Dallas Cowboys defense. Pacheco or Jeff Wilson, not crazy about either one of them. I probably actually lean towards Jeff Wilson, though I think he's going to have a bad day. But I think he is a part of the offense for the Dolphins that whether it's passing or running, he's going to get enough touches. So I lean towards Jeff Wilson, though I'm not crazy about it. I wouldn't trade Terry McLaurin. Nope. He's playing really well under Taylor Heineke. I don't think he's a great play this week, but for the remainder of the season, I wouldn't trade Terry McLaurin. I think he could have a good December. Maher or Ryan Suckup? All right, I'm going Maher because it's the Cowboys, and the Cowboys offense has been clicking of late, so I'll go Brett Maher. I just mentioned don't trade Scary Terry. Pacheco, Wilson, Sutton, Watson, start 3 for Week 13. I'll start Sutton and Watson for sure. Pacheco, Wilson, you just heard me kind of go back and forth on it. I lean towards Wilson, could go either way. CD Lamb for Justin Fields. Do that deal right now. Do it right now. Justin Fields, I don't know how many snaps he's going to have the remainder of the year. CD Lamb, definitely get him if you can. 49ers versus Fins this weekend. You're a 49ers fan, a little nervous. I understand why. Mentioned this earlier. So my bets for this one, the Butt Fumble Sports pick, is 49ers on the money line, Dolphins to cover +5 after you buy 1.5. So I'm on both sides of that one. I could see both tickets cashing. The 49ers at home have been really impressive. Think it's going to be a great game. Do think it's going to be close, though. So 49ers on the money line, Fins to cover +5. Mentioned I'd start Maher over Suckup. Van Jefferson or Brian Robinson. Hate Van Jefferson. Hate everything about the Rams offense. I like Brian Robinson this week. Higgins is still going to produce with Chase back. Yes, T. Higgins will still have production with Chase back. I think it's Boyd who will see his production go down. Trade one, Kmet, Everett, or Knox. I would trade Kmet only because Everett, I really have a lot of faith in him as a tight end. Knox, even though he hasn't played well, I love the offense that he's in. Cole Kmet, is Justin Fields playing or not? If Justin Fields isn't playing, that's an easy one for me. He's the one I'd let go. Appreciate all of you joining us. Thoughts on Treylon Burke? I thought he was going to be better. I thought he was going to be a better replacement for A.J. Brown. He hasn't. He's had a couple nice plays, but he's kind of disappointed me this year. Should I start Chubb or Jacobs? No freaking brainer. Nick Chubb. The Houston Texans have the worst run defense in the NFL. Josh Jacobs has a calf injury, so as well as Jacobs played last week, he's a little banged up. I'm sure they're going to monitor the health and status of him on Sunday, where Nick Chubb should just have a monster day. It's Chubb all the way in that one. Williams, Murray, or Cordero Patterson? It's Jamal Williams. He's had a great year. He's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Jamal Williams, no-brainer. Swift or Patterson? I'm going Swift for the same reason. I like the Detroit Lions offense up against that bad Jaguars defense. Montgomery, Pierce, or Pacheco? I'd lean towards Montgomery or Pierce in this one. Probably Montgomery. I know the Browns defense is really bad against the run, but Pierce, I feel like the defenses are just focused on him. I mentioned earlier rookie running backs reaching this time of the season start to wear down a bit. I lean towards Montgomery. Thoughts on Mike White? First of all, shout out to Mike White for putting Zach Wilson in his place. Zach Wilson acted like a punk, didn't take responsibility. He needed to get put in the frickin' doghouse, and Mike White did it. I'm so happy about it. A journeyman makes right. He looked fantastic last week. A bad Bears defense, no doubt, but Mike White looked really good. Excited for him. Hope he remains the starter the rest of the year, and I hope he's the starting quarterback when the Jets play a playoff game. That'll absolutely tell Zach Wilson, you are this close to being out of the NFL for good. I think that's the best thing that could happen to Wilson, and certainly the best thing for the New York Jets. What's my opinion on DJ Moore the rest of the year with Sam Darnold? Well, I kind of got burned last week. I thought that Baker Mayfield was gonna start early in the week, and so I had DJ Moore as a sit in my fantasy football advice. But the moment I heard Sam Darnold was starting, that changed my opinion. DJ Moore has had his best production as a Carolina Panther with Sam Darnold. So for me, when Darnold is playing, I love DJ Moore. They just have great chemistry together. So while I don't like DJ Moore this year, with Sam Darnold under center, I like him a lot more. Bills defense or Jets defense, who should I start? It pains me to say it. I'd start the Bills defense because it's Mac Jones. And I feel like, especially Damian Harris is hurt, so the Patriots are going to be really heavily focused on Ramondre Stevenson, him getting a lot of touches. That means the Bills are going to be focused on stopping Ramondre Stevenson, where on the other side, the Jets defense is really good, but the Vikings have a lot of weapons, the Vikings at home, so I lean towards the Bills defense as the start this week. Van Jefferson or Treylon Burks? Let me just say this for the last time. I am fading every Rams wide receiver. I want nothing to do with a Rams wide receiver. I want nothing to do with a Rams tight end. If you got a Ram, sit him, cut him, get rid of him. I don't want anything to do with the Los Angeles Rams the remainder of the year. I'm not crazy about Treylon Burks going up against the Eagles defense. I'd rather have him than Van Jefferson. Rashad White, Mixon, Montgomery, start 2. I'll start Montgomery and Mixon. Ramondre Stevenson or ETN. So this is a tough one because you don't know the status of ETN and his health, and Ramondre Stevenson plays on Thursday. I'd rather wait wait and not play Ramondre Stevenson, thinking he's going to have a letdown game against a good Bills defense, and I'll wait on ETN. If ETN can't play, there are other players available on the waiver wire. Pickens or Palmer, I like both of these wide receivers right now. Both are making moves. I like Palmer just because I like the passing game of the Chargers more, but Pickens is absolutely becoming one of the main targets for Kenny Pickett. So I like Pickens if you have him in a different league, but I would go with Palmer over Pickens this week. And Njoku or Higbee, you must not have heard my entire rant on the Rams offense, but that's an easy one for me. I'm going nowhere close to the Rams wide receivers or tight ends, so sit Higbee. And Njoku, now that he's got Deshaun Watson back, I mean, he looked great last week. I think he'll continue to. Man, Najee Harris is quickly becoming like a Trent Richardson. He just disappoints me year after year, week over week. He was hurt last night, so he couldn't hit his total rushing yards total. Najee Harris just disappointing me. I'm not touching him in fantasy for years. Lockett or Metcalf rest of the season. I'm going to lean towards Metcalf. I know Lockett's had some good games, but Metcalf, I just think he's the tougher wide receiver to stop. Good move to pick up Waller and put on the IR. I mean, if you're in a dynasty league and you can afford to, but otherwise, don't you want to have a keeper who's a wide receiver or a running back? I don't really care about keeping tight ends year over year unless it's Travis Kelce. I don't think Waller's going to come back from the IR this year, so to me, that's kind of a wasted roster spot. I'm stuck between Jamal Williams and Ayuk for the flex. No brainer for me, Jamal Williams. Ayuk has to compete with all of these other offensive weapons for the 49ers. Meanwhile, Jamal Williams is one of the best running backs in the NFL this year, especially in the red zone. And the Lions are going up against a bad Jaguars defense. Jamal Williams, no brainer for me. Is Dameon Pierce a lost cause? I don't think he's a lost cause. I think he could still put up average production numbers if you're in fantasy. But I think Dameon Pierce is suffering from two negative factors. One, rookie who's now entering that part of the season that extends beyond the college football season, so the wear and tear of a football year is starting to play a factor. And second, the quarterback in the offense for the Texans is so bad, opposing defenses go, stop Dameon Pierce, we stop the Texans offense. You're seeing that. He's not getting as many opportunities right now to break through. I just think Dameon Pierce is on the downhill, not because of him, but more because of the situation that he's in. Trade Lockett or Metcalf rest of the season, we answered that. I don't feel good about trading either one of them. I actually might trade Metcalf because you can get more brand name value in return. But which player would I rather have? I'd rather have Metcalf for just that same reason. But if you're trading them, I think you could actually get good value out of both. Gus Edwards or Kamara? Man, I hate both of these guys. Whew. I'm going to go towards Edwards. I'm just fading Kamara all year. He's had terrible stats. He's been a bust, and he's going up against a good run defense. I don't like Edwards anymore, really, so I feel like both are a fade. I don't really want my name attached to picking one or the other, but if I have to, I guess I'll go Edwards. Really hate both of them. Ayuk or Jamal Williams, we answered that. No-brainer, Williams. Traded Swift and Sanders for Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. No, you did not win that trade, unfortunately. You put too much faith in the running game of the Green Bay Packers, and unfortunately, their offensive line just hasn't played as well this year. Dak or Brady? I'm going Dak this week. No brainer. Brady's going up against a defense that plays him well, and he has maybe his best offensive player, the offensive lineman Tristan Wirfs. He's not going to be available to protect him. I don't like Tom Brady in this game. Deontay Johnson versus the Atlanta defense. Zay Jones versus the Lions. Standard. Also have Cortland. Don't trust Humphrey on him. Yeah, I think Cortland Sutton's going to put up average numbers. Not crazy about him. Deontay Johnson could have a big day. Zay Jones could have a big day. I lean towards Jones as my play, but I think Johnson or Jones are both good plays for this week. Keenan Allen or Mike Evans. I'm going Keenan Allen. Rashad White, Swift, or Pacheco. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift. Again, going up against a bad Jaguars defense. Van Jefferson or Zay Jones. Mark my words, don't touch the Rams offense at all. Go with Zay Jones. Metcalf or Evan Williams. Here I am making whiskey jokes. DK Metcalf or Mike Evans. I'm going to go DK Metcalf. Pacheco or Pierce. I'll lean towards Pierce. I'm not crazy about it. Tony Pollard for the rest of the season. Love him. RB1 on the Dallas Cowboys offense. I know Zeke's played better of late, but Tony Pollard, not just in the running game, in the passing game, Tony Pollard's the guy you want to start. He's the one you want to have. Jacobs and Cooper for Walker and Devontae Adams. Ooh, that is a good question. I'll go with Jacobs and Cooper. I think Cooper's going to play well with Deshaun Watson. I think Jacobs is clearly showing he's the better part of the Raiders offense right now. I love Devontae Adams. I like Kenneth Walker. This is a tough one for me. I lean towards Jacobs and Cooper. Just traded Hill and Foreman for Debo, Christian Watson, and Jamal Williams. Great trade. I do think you got kind of the best possible production value out of Hill. You're kind of selling him high, and you're getting Debo, Christian Watson, Jamal Williams at a good time, getting some extra depth for that bench. I also think Deontay Foreman kind of played his best games already, so I think you did a great job selling players at their peak, getting some other guys, getting some value. Really like that. Mike Evans and Dalvin Cook for Najee Harris and Stephon Diggs. Well, I like it because Stephon Diggs is the best player in the trade. Usually I'm someone who goes, if you get the best player in the deal, you won the deal, especially if you're not giving up any real talent. So I do like that deal only because I like Diggs. Trade Debo and Kamara for Ramondre Stevenson, dub, or nah? The answer is nah. As much as I don't like Kamara, I mentioned Ramondre Stevenson. He's just going to... It's harder for him to run because opposing defenses are going, just take away the running game and force Mac Jones to beat us. I think Debo Samuel is the best player in the deal. I don't like it. I like Debo. DK, Keenan Allen, and Mike Evans, pick 2. DK and Keenan. Swift or Kyrene Williams, I'm going Swift. Non-PPR, I trade Diggs, Christian McCaffrey, Jamal Williams for Eckler, Waddle, and Christian Watson. I wouldn't do that deal. I like Diggs. I like Jamal Williams as much as I like Eckler and Waddle and Watson. First of all, it's a loaded deal. A lot of brand names in that trade. Really interesting. But I like Diggs and Jamal Williams just a bit more. Latavius Murray or Williams, I'm not crazy about that. I'm not even going to get into that. Hill and Saquon for Jacobs and Kirk. I wouldn't do that. I'd keep Hill and I'd keep Saquon. Josh Jacobs, the calf injury, I think plays into that. I think Christian Kirk could have a big week, but week over week, who do I trust more? Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins offense or Christian Kirk and the Jaguars offense? I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Should I do Jalen Hurts, Mike Williams, and Higbee for Tua, DK, and Njoku? The answer is no. You should not do that deal. Tua, DK, and Njoku are the guys you want to have. Tua or Dak? Ooh, good question. I'll go with Dak this week only because Tua's going up against that 49ers defense that's so good. Who do you think wins this trade, Pollard and Lockett for Adams and Claypool? Well, Pollard and Lockett. Claypool has really been a non-factor. As good as Devontae Adams has been at times, Pollard is the best player in the deal. Lockett, great addition. I like that one. Swift or Palmer at the flex? Ooh, I'd probably lean towards Swift just because I think he's going to get more opportunities. Palmer's got to split targets with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, DeAndre Carter, and Austin Eckler. DeAndre Swift, I think, is the better play. Do I trade Christian Watson and Mostert for Jamal Williams? I wouldn't do that because I like Raheem Mostert enough. Try to get one other player in that deal. If you can get Jamal Williams plus something else, then I would do it. Right now, I actually think that's a pretty fair deal, so I'd rather have the extra depth of the one extra player. Thoughts on Alvin Kamara? He's one of the biggest busts of the year. He's just had a terrible year from a stat perspective. He's one of the reasons the Saints have had a terrible year. Don't think it's entirely his fault. I mean, other than the suspension and being a terrible human away from the field, that was his fault. But in terms of his production, he doesn't have a good quarterback. That's hurting him enough. Stephon Diggs for Jalen Hurts. I like Diggs. Diggs is the better player in that one. I know Jalen Hurts may be up for an MVP, but Stephon Diggs is the player you want. Pollard, Swift, or Rashad White? Pollard, not even a question. Latavius Murray or Jerry Jeudy this week. If you have to put your faith in the Broncos offense, I feel terrible for you. I don't like either one of them. That said, if I had to go with one, I guess I'm going with Jerry Jeudy because the Ravens defense is worse against the pass than against the run, but I hate both. Gabe Davis and James Robinson for Christian Watson? No, don't do that deal. Gabe Davis. I'd rather have Gabe Davis. James Robinson's a throw-in. I'm not a fan of that. But Christian Watson, what are the Packers? He had a couple good games, but is Aaron Rodgers going to be quarterbacking the Packers in a few weeks? Is Jordan Love? I know who's quarterbacking the Buffalo Bills. It's Josh Allen. Gabe Davis is going to have good numbers. I'd go with Gabe Davis. Start one at wide receiver and one at flex. Evans, White, Garrett Wilson, where I'm starting Garrett Wilson and I'm playing Mike Evans and I'll sit White. Should you trade for Travis Etienne? It's a little late in the year, and given that he's got an injury, I don't think you're going to get as much value out of him as you think you are, so it depends what you're giving up. Give me the Bills Thursday night and give me the USA Saturday morning. First of all, shout out to Team USA. Shout out to democracy, to freedom, to capitalism, all the like. Sorry, Iran. You're going to have to go back to oppressing your people. Great job by Team USA. Pulisic, Captain America. You suffered the injury, but you got the win. Advancing. Congratulations, Team USA. Very proud of the soccer team. That said, I'm also with you. I think Bills on the money line Thursday night against the Patriots is a good bet. One stat on that one, Josh Allen in his last 2 games at Foxborough, at home, or rather on the road against the Patriots, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he clearly does well on the road against the Bill Belichick defense. DeAndre Hopkins for Andrews and Kamara. For Andrews or Kamara. Oh my God, I hate that deal. Keep DeAndre Hopkins. He's the best player in the deal. I don't know why you're trading him. Should I do Monty, Pierce, and Schultz for Olave, Kenneth Murray? Kenneth Murray is a linebacker. If it's Latavius Murray, you're going to have to, if it's Kenneth Walker and Murray, you're going to have to answer that one, clean that one up a bit. I'm a little confused by that trade. Who won the trade? I got Jacobs, Chubb, and Pollard, and gave Jets kicker and Njoku and Ravens defense. Okay, clearly the person you traded with doesn't understand fantasy football. You pretty much robbed him of everything that guy owns. I'm surprised you didn't get the deed to his house. Unbelievable. Who do I trade for Watson? I don't know. I don't know who's available in your league. I don't know who you're competing with in fantasy owners. If you've got guys like the other one, whoever had that monster trade, Vega 0724. If you've got other owners like he does in his league, I'm pretty sure you could trade Watson for anybody and get a steal for him. Sutton, Burks, or Pierce at flex. I lean towards Pierce or Sutton. Not crazy about Burks as much. I probably go towards Pierce. I don't like it, but I probably go in that direction in a flex play. Who wins? Saquon Barkley for Travis, Etienne, and CD Lamb. Is that Travis as in Travis Kelce, Etienne, and CD Lamb? You clean that one up. Either way, if you're trading Saquon Barkley and you're getting those players in exchange, it's a good deal. So I like that trade. Palmer or Singletary. I don't like Singletary this week. He's going up against a really good Patriots defense.
You thought this was a thing.
Como assim?